Chapter 1586. These questions, no matter how hard she racked her head, she couldn't think of an answer. Zi Qianqian simply couldn't be bothered to think further. She still had to stay in the blazing flame nest for the night. It was impossible for Yi Qingluo to pass her the food and water bag. She had to prepare her own water bag for the night. Tomorrow morning, everything that happened today would come to an end. With this thought in mind, Zi Qianqian took out the empty water bag and filled it to the brim. Yi Qingluo, you're deliberately mystifying, trying to monopolize this stream. I'm not going to let you have it. She stuffed the water bag into her realm ring and drank several mouthfuls of the stream water in front of Yi Qingluo. Following that, she stood up. Just at this moment, Zi Qianqian's sleeves fluttered and a burst of profound qi shot out from her palm. That palm wind blew up the surrounding trees. In a split second, dust billowed, sand and stones flew. Those trees were uprooted, and the gravel on the ground fell into the stream. The crystal clear stream. It was extremely dirty. There was no way to drink this stream. Zi Qianqian. You. Those students were flustered and exasperated. Pointing at Zi Qianqian, they couldn't wait to pounce on her and dismember her into pieces. That was the only stream in the blazing flame nest. The only source of water. And it was destroyed by Zi Qianqian, just like that. Zi Qianqian, you slut. Too vicious. Zi Qianqian's actions had completely aroused everyone's anger. Just as everyone was filled with righteous indignation, some of the rash students were about to rush over to press Zi Qianqian down and beat her up. A clear voice rang. So what if it's destroyed anyway? This stream isn't real. The students were stunned. They looked towards the direction of the voice. Boss Qingluo, what do you mean? What did she mean by this stream wasn't real? You should be glad that you didn't drink this stream. Yi Qingluo's smiling eyes congealed on the complacent Zi Qianqian. Zi Qianqian spat coldly, deliberately mystifying. Yi Qingluo crossed her arms and walked towards the stream. Following that, she lifted her leg and kicked the water surface. That stream, at the instance when Yi Qingluo touched it, gradually disappeared. Vaguely, under the cover of the tree trunk, the students could vaguely see the stream. It was a little red. They were like pieces of bloody meat. However, upon closer inspection, the place where the stream used to be had turned into a flat road. If it weren't for the fallen trees on the ground, the middle school students would have thought that everything that had just happened was just a dream. What's going on? Where's the stream? How did it disappear? Did you see that? When the stream disappeared, I think I saw something that looked like a piece of meat. Right. Why do I feel like it's some kind of internal organ? The students discussed among themselves with lingering fear. What you said is right. Yi Qingluo's calm voice interrupted the students' suspicions. She smiled faintly, and her gaze swept across the surrounding students before finally landing on Zi Qianqian. This stream is transformed from that little magical beast's body. This stream is that little magical beast's internal organs, and that stream water is the water in that little magical beast's stomach. Oh right, this little magical beast likes to hide its own excrement in its body, so that it can transform into a longer stream, to cheat you kids who want to drink water. Yi Qingluo's voice had just landed. Sounds of vomiting could be heard from the surroundings. The students' faces turned pale as they held onto their chests and vomited violently. Damn it! Water in the stomach? Excrement. Chapter 1587. Especially those 400 over students who were sucked into the water, they vomited to their heart's content. You're lying. Zi Qianqian's little face turned pale as she covered her throat with one hand and staggered backwards. Impossible. How could this water be fake? This must be a lie that Yi Qingluo purposely wanted to tease her and scare her. Yi Qingluo raised her brows with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Then, just treat it as if I'm lying to you. Zi Qianqian was so angry that she almost vomited blood. What did she mean by treat it as if she was lying to her? This was originally a lie. She didn't believe it. She absolutely wouldn't believe it. Zi Qianqian kept reminding herself in her heart. But in her heart, she couldn't control it at this moment. She chose to believe Yi Qingluo's words. Ugh! Zi Qianqian really couldn't bear with the surging of her stomach. She bent over and vomited in big mouthfuls. Looking at Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaoyan vomiting as they left in a sorry state. Those students who originally felt disgusted couldn't help but burst out laughing. Hundreds of people's laughter was extremely loud. Even though Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaoyan had walked far away, they could still hear their laughter. Qingluo, that stream, is really the excrement of magical beasts? Yan Xiaoyi leaned close to Yi Qingluo as she asked with a grin. All the students pricked up their ears. Amen. Yi Qingluo nodded. How would a kind, gentle and honest girl like me lie to her? Devil class's students' faces were filled with black lines. All the students continued to vomit. At this moment, the atmosphere had also gradually lightened up. Luckily, this accident didn't cause any danger to the students. Yi Qingluo took a look at the students from the various academies who were enjoying themselves. Seeing that everyone had completely escaped from danger, she prepared to lead the devil class's students to leave. Before she could even bid farewell to the students, two figures knelt down in front of Yi Qingluo with a thud. Yi Qingluo recognized that this was the girl who wanted to die together with her brother earlier. Student Yi Qingluo, thank you. Thank you for saving my brother, saving our Qiankuan Academy students. The girl's eyes were red as she looked at Yi Qingluo gratefully. Beside her was her brother, who had just escaped death in the water. The young man who had changed into clean clothes and taken care of himself looked quite handsome. Qiankuan Academy? Yi Qingluo searched for the name of this school in her heart. Although this academy was a third-tier academy, it was considered one of the best among third-tier academies. This was especially so for students who graduated from Qiankuan Academy, not to mention becoming a celebrity in Nirvana realm like the Heavenly Academy. But at the very least, they had some small achievements. Universe Academy students immediately walked up and knelt down in rows in front of Yi Qingluo. Many thanks to student Yi Qingluo for lending a helping hand. Our brother Shi's life was saved by you. Qiankuan Academy will owe you a favor. Qiankuan Academy had a total of 73 people. At this moment, all of them were kneeling down in front of Yi Qingluo. Looking at those pairs of determined and grateful eyes, Yi Qingluo's lips curled into a smile. She seemed to understand. Why did the Qiankuan Academy have such a high enrollment rate despite being a third-tier academy? The students of this academy were just like their devil class. It was a collective. Student Yi Qingluo, can I be friends with you? The girl looked at Yi Qingluo in anticipation. Yi Qingluo didn't reply. Instead, her vision fell onto the girl's tightly clenched fist, and that pale fingertip. It wasn't hard to tell that the girl was feeling apprehensive and uneasy. Chapter 1588. Of course you can. Towards pure girls, Yi Qingluo had always doted on them. Treat them sincerely. She naturally responded sincerely. Yi Qingluo smiled lightly as she walked up quickly and helped the pair of siblings up. Little sister, don't be too blindly fond of me. I'm not as good as you think. Yi Qingluo held the girl's hand with both her hands. The person you should thank is yourself. Ah. Little Lolita was stunned, not understanding the meaning of Yi Qingluo's words. Yi Qingluo patted the girl's forehead. If it wasn't for you saying to accompany your brother to die, I wouldn't have bothered about this. Ha! Little Lolita was even more shocked. Following that, her face turned slightly red as she scratched her head shyly. So student Yi Qingluo is because of me. Bam! A hard slap made the girl hold her head as she cried out in pain. She raised her head as she looked at Yi Qingluo with teary eyes. A person's life is very precious. Don't belittle your own life and don't casually say that you want to die. Yi Qingluo spoke in a serious tone. Have you ever thought that if I didn't make a move earlier and your academy students didn't stop you, what would happen if you really died with your brother in the water? Have you ever thought about your parents? About your classmates, brothers and sisters? Have you ever thought about the people you care about and care about you? The girl's expression gradually turned grave after hearing Yi Qingluo's words. Her cheeks flushed red. Not because of shyness, not because of anger, but because of embarrassment and realization of her own stupidity. Student Yi Qingluo. The girl clenched her fists as her eyelashes were wet. Yi Qing Luo placed both her hands on her shoulders as she stared at the girl's reddened eyes and said word by word, "Don't give up your life so easily. I know I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong." Bean-sized tears rolled down from the girl's eyes. She turned around and bowed to her brother as she apologized sincerely. "Brother, I'm sorry she made you worried." Looking at the girl and her brother hugging each other tightly, the smile on Yi Qing Luo's face grew wider. As for Yi Qing Luo's words, it had caused a huge impact on those students present. They looked at Yi Qing Luo in a daze. It was as if he was looking at a god that he revered. Such sincerity, such respect. "Student Yi Qing Luo, thank you." The change in the girl's state of mind made her look even cuter. "Little girl, since we're already friends, you don't have to call me classmate. It sounds weird." Yi Qing Luo looked at the girl and felt rather astonished at how quickly she understood the meaning of her words. It seemed like this little girl wasn't as simple as she seemed on the surface. Then how about I call you Sister Qing Luo?" The girl's eyes sparkled as she asked excitedly. It sounds much better this way." The girl's eyes were filled with smiles as her eyes were clear. "Sister Qing Luo, I'm Shiruashi and this is my brother Shiruoyu. Our Universe Academy is in South Tide Continent, and after we leave the Blazing Lair, I must treat Sister Qing Luo to a sumptuous meal." This surname, that was rare. Looking at Shiruoyu and Shiruashi, whether it was the way they talked or the way they behaved, it revealed that they were of extraordinary status. From the looks of it, they must be some large family's daughter and young master, making friends with a sister. The few of them exchanged some conventional greetings. Yi Qing Luo then suggested to split up with the rest to complete the mission. Chapter 1589. What kind of joke was that? Doing missions? Would they still have the mood to do missions now? The minute they thought that their opponent was Yi Qing Luo, how would they be able to let go and do their missions? At least Yi Qing Luo had risked her life to save them. If they were to fight with Yi Qing Luo, to snatch, wouldn't they be repaying kindness with enmity? More importantly, which one of them was Yi Qing Luo's opponent? Looking at everyone's expressions, Yi Qing Luo knew what these students were thinking about. Her lips curled up slightly as her voice was calm and indifferent. "I saved you not to blackmail you or anything. If you really feel that you can't get over it, then remember that you owe me, Yi Qing Luo, a favor, and that's enough." Students. Devil class. But ha 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 ha. Indeed, Yi Qing Luo's so-called kindness and generosity was just a casual remark. She had dug a pit long ago, and was waiting for those students to fall into it. Favor was the hardest thing to repay. Yi Qing Luo ignored the students' dumbstruck expressions as she continued. "Saving you is one thing and the Academy's competition is another. I hope that all students will not mix the two together. The Academy's competition is not only related to the Academy's reputation and the Academy's future, it is also related to your own reputation and future. The result of this competition will become the reference for the various academies' annual ranking. If you were to give up because of this, your own lives will be ruined." Yi Qing Luo's voice paused slightly, giving some time for the students to digest her words. As expected, the expressions of all the students became solemn. They started to ponder over Yi Qing Luo's words. This academy's competition wasn't their own competition. It was the academy. It was a competition which represented the entire academy. All of you must remember one sentence. Yi Qing Luo's gaze slowly swept past all the students present. That gaze wasn't considered to be passionate, instead it was slightly indifferent. That disdainful look on all living beings, overriding the imposing manner of thousands of people. It made the students' blood boil continuously. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as a smile bloomed on her lips. It was like a dream. Her chilly voice was like spring water, clear and melodious. The biggest respect towards the opponent is to go all out. Every word and sentence struck the hearts of the students. Traces of light appeared on the young faces of the boys and girls. Right, they respected Yi Qing Luo, so they should take this academy's competition seriously. If it was because Yi Qing Luo had saved them, they would give up on this competition, avoiding the battle with Yi Qing Luo. This was not to repay Yi Qing Luo for saving his life. But it was contempt towards Yiqing Luo. Contempt towards the devil class. Yiqing Luo was a true expert. There was no need for them to hold back at all. The expressions on the faces of the students from the various academies had already regained the vigor and hope that young men and women should have. After a long time, all the students said in unison, "We understand." Yiqing Luo nodded with a smile. Following that, he led the 10 over devil class students behind him and turned to leave. Because of the mutant beast, they had already delayed their rest time. He had to hurry up and find a magic beast for its mana crystal. 7 to 8 academies had been attracted by the stream just now. However, there were still a dozen or so academies who were still struggling to complete their missions. They had to hurry. Furthermore, no one knew when the dark forces hiding in the dark would appear. The closer it was to the time to leave the fire lair, the possibility of the dark forces appearing in the dark was higher. Chapter 1590. 10 over devil classes students returned to the team. A few elite students immediately went forward as their eyes were filled with worship. Student Yiqing Luo, you really settled the monster under the stream. You're too incredible. They weren't standing far from each other. They had clearly seen everything that had happened by the stream just now. Their admiration towards Yiqing Luo grew, and they felt extremely fortunate. Before this, they had made the right choice, choosing to leave with Yiqing Luo, so that they could have their fill. Only then could they stand here safe and sound. Thinking of Zi Qianqian, the elite students couldn't help but feel disgusted. They had not expected the number 1 beauty, Zi Qianqian's character, to be so vile. Not only disgusting, it was extremely vicious. When they returned to Heavenly Academy, they must tear off Zi Qianqian's hypocritical mask. Don't be too happy now. Our magic crystals have already fallen behind the other academies, and adding on to the fact that our numbers are less than half, if we don't hurry up, we'll probably be at the bottom in this competition. Yiqing Luo smiled faintly, without a single trace of happiness from being praised. He was calm and composed, unperturbed by both praise and humiliation. This made those students feel at ease. Just at this moment, a few chaotic footsteps were heard from behind. Yiqing Luo and the others turned around. 10 over elite students from Intermediate Profound Class 2 jogged towards them. Madam Qing Luo, please let me return to the team. It's all Zi Qianqian, that slut's fault, blinding our eyes. Madam Qing Luo, please give us one more chance. We will listen to your instructions obediently and work hard for the Academy's glory. Intermediate Profound Class 2 students begged in a low voice. Their words were filled with sincerity. But Yiqing Luo didn't miss the disdain and helpless unwillingness in those students' eyes. This group of students got whatever they wanted in Heavenly Academy. Because of Yiqing Luo, they were demoted to Intermediate Profound Class 2 students. Their reputation was also lost because of Yiqing Luo. How could they possibly be willing to submit to Yiqing Luo? But a man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. They had to make use of Devil Class's power to leave the blazing flame nest alive. That was the most important thing. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a cold smile, as she looked at those students with a smile yet not a smile. Just as the students were about to give up in fear, suddenly, a light voice drifted into his ears. All right. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 were instantly stunned. As if he couldn't believe his ears. Yiqing Luo, she actually agreed? Immediately after, a trace of ridicule appeared in the eyes of the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students. He was secretly laughing at Yiqing Luo's ignorance and waste. At the end of the day, the students of the Devil Class still had to rely on their own abilities. They had long known that Yiqing Luo was waiting for them to return. They wouldn't lower themselves. At least they could regain their sovereignty from Yiqing Luo's hands. But Yiqing Luo's smile was brilliant, extremely dazzling. We don't keep trash. If you are of no use, I will not hesitate to throw you into the magical beast's stomach. The Intermediate Profound Class 2 students' faces turned pale as a venomous glint flashed past their eyes. Yiqing Luo saw everything. With a cold laugh, he raised his hand and signaled for the group to leave. Behind him, Mo Hanshang wanted to go up and express his thanks several times. But there was never a good opportunity. He stood there hesitantly. After some time he plucked up his courage and was about to chase up. Suddenly, he heard Yi Qingluo's smiling voice coming from the meadow. Chapter 1591. When Emo Hanshang heard that, his heart twitched fiercely. Soon after, his heart calmed down. So Yi Qingluo had been paying attention to him. She also knew what he was hesitating about. With Yi Qingluo's words, he was relieved. In the following period of time, Yi Qingluo led a bunch of students as they charged towards the magical beasts without stopping. Of course, Yi Qingluo had gathered the main force on the students from Intermediate Profound Class 2. These students were quite talented and strong. It wasn't much of a problem to deal with these magical beasts. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 were so tired that they were panting and sweating profusely. There were also quite a number of students who had been scratched by demonic beasts. On the other hand, the students of the Devil class, there was not even a drop of sweat on his body. Their hearts were extremely unbalanced. But he didn't dare to open his mouth and ask for Yi Qingluo's permission. Although Yi Qingluo had treated the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students as coolies. However, he did not treat them badly in terms of food and drinks. For the sake of these food and water bags, the students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 had to swallow their anger. The route chosen by Yi Qingluo. They were all in the direction where the magical beasts had appeared. However, after 4 hours, Yi Qingluo looked at her space pocket, which was filled to the brim with magic crystals, and took another look at the accumulated points in her pocket. At this time, he had accumulated 430 points. It was far from enough. Yi Qingluo took a look at the students who were still trembling with the magical beasts, and decided to split into two. Long Yunzhan, Tong Ziqing, Dong Huanglang, and Qi Yijing were to lead the students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 to fight magical beasts and obtain magic crystals, whereas she brought a bunch of Devil class students to ambush the students from the other academies. They were quite lucky. They had just split into two groups. At a corner of the dense forest ahead, Yi Qingluo had found an academy student. A team of about 100 people. It was probably because he had been attacking the demonic beasts without any rest. Because Yi Qingluo and the others had already cleared all the nearby magical beasts. After the students passed through the dense forest, and found that there was no danger, they decided to rest for an hour before continuing. This break gave Yi Qingluo and the others a chance. A group of lunatics swarmed forward. The students didn't even have the chance to react. The interspatial bag had already fallen into Yi Qingluo's hands. Yi Qingluo only took away their magic crystals. Then he returned the interspatial pouches to them. Go. Squat down an entire academy. Yi Qingluo waved her hand, and her heroic spirit soared to the sky. Devil classes students expressed, following boss to do this kind of sneaky things is really 2F** king exciting. Hence, the entire flame lair was in such a state. A team of 50 or so people killed every magical beast they saw. When the students saw the demonic beasts, it was as if they had seen meat on the chopping board. One by one they rushed forward. That was savage. That was terrifying. Then he looked at the other group of 50-odd people. They came and went without a trace. Hiding in the dark, they swarmed toward an academy the moment they saw one. Those who hit others hit others. Those who were fighting for space pockets were fighting for space pockets. That was savage. That was terrifying. As a result, when the other academies heard the news, they even trembled in fear as they walked. They were afraid that in the next second, a group of students would rush out and beat them up. This situation continued until the sun gradually rose. Chapter 1592. Yi Qingluo took out her space pocket. When they saw the points on it, the students of Devil class were all stunned. A number was imprinted on the interspatial pocket. 1,640 points. Actually over 1,000. We're definitely going to win. We're definitely going to win this time. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 suddenly felt that it was worth it to work so hard for half a day. As long as they were victorious in this academy competition, they would be able to win. They might even be able to return to High Profound Class 2. Don't celebrate too early. Yiqing Luo's expression was indifferent as she kept the space bag. 5,000 magical beasts. We've only obtained 1,640 magical beasts. That's a sure win. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 disagreed. With so many academies, there are still over 3,000 magic crystals left. If each academy gets a bit, it would be impossible to surpass the amount of magic crystals we have now. Yiqing Luo scoffed. His disdainful gaze swept across the student. What do you mean by this? The Intermediate Profound Class 2 student's face darkened, revealing some anger. We've ambushed more than a dozen academies and robbed more than 1,000 mana crystals. Do you think those academies will let us go? Yiqing Luo sneered as her lips twitched. There's a huge possibility. These students will choose another way to suppress the Heavenly Academy. The Intermediate Profound Class 2 student opened his mouth, and only managed to utter a sentence after a while. What method? Cooperate with Nantao Academy. Yiqing Luo stared at the eyes of the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students, as she spoke word by word. This was not entirely impossible. If it was her, then, an academy squatted down several times and snatched away the fruits of their hard work that they had painstakingly collected for several hours. She would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. Apart from the few academies that he had saved previously, the other academies would definitely unite to let the Heavenly Academy have a taste of bitterness after the ruckus caused by them. And their backer. It was second only to the Heavenly Academy, Nantao Academy. They would unite and hand over all their magical crystals to Nantao Academy. If they were to gather with Nantao Academy to fight against the Heavenly Academy, the Heavenly Academy only had over 100 students. How could it compare to a dozen academies? But this is an academy competition. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 raised their doubts. If he handed over his magic crystal, wouldn't that cause their academy's ranking to fall to rock bottom? If one or two academies didn't get a single magic crystal, it would be a disgrace. But what if 10 over academies, or even all the academies, don't have any magic crystals? Yiqing Luo's brows rose. The Intermediate Profound Class 2 students no longer had any doubts. The other students immediately panicked. Then, Boss Qing Luo, what should we do? Before they unite, snatch more magic crystals. Yiqing Luo replied. But the various academies are working together to snatch our magic crystals. The Intermediate Profound Class 2 students were extremely worried. Yiqing Luo smiled indifferently. I am guarding the space pocket. No one can snatch it. Where did his confidence come from? The students' gazes all fell onto Yiqing Luo. When he saw that pair of enchanting eyes that were suffused with a cold light, he felt a chill run down his spine. Their hearts tightened. Fine, they admit it. Other than Yiqing Luo, there was indeed no one else who could guard the space pocket. All right, continue to split up. Yiqing Luo saw that everyone had almost finished their rations, and waved her hand as she gave the order. The students mourned. But upon recalling what Yiqing Luo said earlier, Chapter 1593. Things were indeed as Yiqing Luo had predicted. Over 10 academies, after experiencing devil classes' continuous harassment, might as well go all the way and directly cooperate, choosing to seek refuge from Nantao Academy. Anyway, even if they went back to fight for the magic crystals, eventually it would fall into devil class's hands. Why not voluntarily give up the magic crystals to Nantao Academy, so that Nantao Academy could suppress Profound Academy's prestige? By the time they left the Blazing Flame Lair, the 10 over academies would then jointly plead with Ghost Martial Artist, pushing all the blame onto Yiqing Luo, and pleading with Ghost Martial Artist to cancel the results of the competition, to use it as a reference for the Academy's annual ranking. Yiqing Luo and the rest searched one round but didn't find any academy. Qing Luo, have they all gone into hiding? Yan Shaoyi looked at the quiet surroundings. These students are really smart, knowing that they can't beat them, so they took a detour. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. If we find traces of Nantao Academy, we will probably be able to find the other academy students. Seeking for backing so quickly? Yin Shaoyi hugged her head. Then what should we do? Don't tell me we really have to go head-to-head with those few academies. She was extremely confident in Devil Class's students' ability. But the opponents were over 10 academies. And they were all outstanding students from the various academies. The pressure was really huge. Who said we have to go head-to-head? Yi Qingluo rolled her eyes at her. I'm not interested in wasting time and energy. Who knew when they would go head-to-head? Would the dark forces take the opportunity to enter? Then let's find out Nantao Academy's whereabouts first, and see how many academies are cooperating with Nantao Academy before making a decision. Yi Qingluo waved her hand with a casual look. The group of 50 over people scuttled swiftly in the forest. They hadn't discovered anything. The entire sky above the blazing flame lair was surrounded by balls of extremely thick black qi. From the looks of it, it was extremely horrifying. In front of the profound light mirror, Ghost martial artist and the few instructors had a panoramic view of everything that happened in the blazing flame lair. Looking at the profound light mirror, the figures of Yi Qingluo and the others were reflected. The expressions on the faces of the instructors had long since changed from the initial shock to the final one of being used to it. This devil class was always creating surprises for them all the time. Seeing how Yi Qingluo dealt with the strange beast, easily subduing the hearts of the various academy students, they were only left with admiration for Yi Qingluo. Not only was this girl's strength outstanding, but she was also very quick-witted. The Heavenly Academy was able to accept such a student. He wondered if it was the good fortune he had accumulated in his previous life. The few instructors were clicking their tongues, praising the devil class. Gui Wu's sleeve suddenly moved. The scene within the profound light mirror suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Zoemo walked over and asked. Something has happened. Gui Wu's sinister eyes narrowed, as he fixed his gaze on a spot on the profound light mirror. On the screen, it was Yi Qingluo leading a group of students, gradually approaching an academy. And not too far away from Yi Qingluo, at a corner, it was a black aura that lingered like smoke. That black aura could only be seen with the naked eye. It made people unhappy. Zoemo had also noticed the black qi, and his expression immediately darkened. That thing actually provoked us. I'm afraid the students are in danger. When the few instructors heard that, they had a dazed expression, not knowing what had happened. They looked at each other in dismay. It was rare to see Gui Wu and Zomo's faces sunk. The matter in the blazing flame lair must be extremely serious. Chapter 1594. We can't create panic among the students. Gui Wu's deep cold voice brought along an irresistible pressure. Young Master Mo, let's go in first and investigate the source of that thing before making a decision. Zomo's brows rose. I have the same intention. Gui Wu took a deep look at the profound light mirror, at that glaring black qi. Suddenly he fished out a space bag from his bosom, and drew some profound light mirror qi. Pay attention to the movement of the black qi at all times. If you discover any strange movement or attack the students, immediately inform me through the profound light mirror. Gui Wu looked solemnly at the four instructors. The instructors tensed up as they stood upright. Yes. Gui Wu and Zoemo exchanged glances and didn't waste any more time. In a split second, the two of them turned into a black and white afterimage, disappearing in front of the instructor's eyes. Yi Qingluo and the rest finally caught a lone student in the academy. 10 over of them sharpened their blades and prepared to attack. But Yi Qingluo suddenly raised her palm and made a pause gesture. Devil class's students had long formed the habit of obeying orders. The moment she raised her palm, 50 over students hid themselves properly and stopped their attacks. Yi Qingluo squinted her eyes as she glanced sideways. Her slightly knitted brows gradually twisted into a bundle. This was the feeling of profound yin qi. Ever since the profound heart jade returned to her body, Yi Qingluo's sensitivity towards profound yin qi was getting sharper and sharper. If she didn't sense wrongly, she seemed to have sensed the profound yin qi's presence earlier. It was people from the dark forces. Had the dark forces made their move? Yiqing Luo vigilantly released her own perception and spoke out in the mercenary group badge. Everyone be careful, release your strongest perception, and try your best to avoid danger. Devil class's students reflexively acted according to Yiqing Luo's command. Qing Luo, what happened? Yan Xiaoyi's expression turned grave as she carefully stuck to Yiqing Luo's side, looking around vigilantly. There's profound yin qi. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists. All of you must be careful. If you're controlled by the profound yin qi, you know the consequences. Recalling the last time, Long Yunzhan was controlled by the profound yin qi. He actually made a move on Yiqing Luo and stabbed Yan Xiaoyi. The devil class students felt their hairs stand on end. Everyone shivered and expressed their determination in the metal. Don't worry, my lord. We will definitely stand strong. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes. We'll talk about it after you've done it. After warning the students of the devil class, Yiqing Luo then focused her attention on her perception. She could clearly sense that there was an extremely dense aura of mysterious yin qi in the vicinity. However, no matter how hard she tried, they were unable to ascertain exactly where the mysterious yin qi that they had sensed was coming from. He glanced at the students who were resting in front of him, not moving at all. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly tightened. A thought flashed across his mind. She clenched her fists. Stay here and don't move. I'll go take a look. As soon as he finished speaking, he transformed into a shadow and merged into the air. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of a student from a nearby academy. Just as he approached, Yiqing Luo saw it. These students were surrounded by a faint layer of mysterious yin qi. That mysterious yin aura was gradually spreading. There were even some mysterious yin qi which directly enveloped those students. As for those students, their eyes were shut as they didn't move at all, not knowing if they were dead or alive. Chapter 1595. What was going on? How did the profound yin qi seep in? Furthermore, why did it feel so strange? Yiqing Luo's glower flame fan flipped as she condensed her profound qi, directly dispersing the profound yin qi which was climbing onto the students' bodies. That profound yin qi seemed to have its own consciousness. Like smoke, it formed into a human shape in midair as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pounced towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo's expression turned cold as she swept up a burst of profound ray from her backhand. A burst of powerful profound energy was like thousands of sharp blades, as it sliced that profound yin qi's human shape into pieces. However, this profound yin qi gathered once again. Countless wisps of mysterious yin qi rose from all directions. Like black smoke, it surged and surged as it permeated the surroundings. This was absolutely not normal. Profound yin qi was based on the dark force's own yin qi and profound qi, gathering into an aura. How could there possibly be such a dense profound yin qi appearing? To create such a profound yin qi's aura, it required at least 50 and above dark forces cultivators. Dark forces had put in a lot of effort to stop her? Impossible. The battle between the Imperial Palace and the Dark Forces had not ended yet. The Imperial Palace was still harassing the Dark Forces. The Dark Forces could at most send 300 to 400 people to deal with them in the Flame Nest. Adding up the various academy students, there were at least 1,500 over people. Even if they deducted those students who were unwilling to cooperate, there were at least 1,000 people. In terms of numbers, they had a huge advantage. If the Dark Forces made another 10 over people to release their profound yin qi to deal with them, their brains must be spoilt to do this, right? The dense profound yin qi, which was like a black fog, seemed to be extremely interested in Yiqing Luo. It kept rubbing against each other as it tried to charge towards Yiqing Luo. The profound yin qi has become so rampant. The students of Devil class who were hiding in the dark naturally saw this scene. Their expressions were stunned as they stared dumbfoundedly at Yiqing Luo, who was enveloped by the profound yin qi. Why are you still in a daze? Do it. Find the source of the profound yin qi. The glower flame fan in Yiqing Luo's hands had not stopped as it kept on waving, sweeping up streams of air waves, dissipating the surrounding profound yin qi. When the Devil class students received the order, they swarmed forward. Once there were more people. Under the circumstances where everyone was on high alert, there was no way to launch a sneak attack with this mysterious Yin Qi. Finally, under the pressure of a student's relentless pursuit, the mysterious Yin Qi drilled into the ground. The entire ground quaked and shook a few times. And then, the mysterious Yin Qi disappeared without a trace. Ran away. Kitty Lee moved her ears and nose, but she didn't smell that disgusting smell. He escaped pretty fast. Kitty Lee can't even smell that smell. The dark forces have indeed made their move. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as her gaze turned to one side. Lulu, take a look at these students first and see how their situation is. The other brothers, go search around the surroundings to see where the source of this profound Yin Qi is. Baiming Lulu picked up the medical kit, before jumping and squatting in front of the students. Just as he was about to reach out and touch the student's wrist to feel his pulse, suddenly, the student with closed eyes grabbed Baiming Lulu's wrist with a backhand. Ah! Baiming Lulu screamed and tried to push away the student's hand. But that student's grip was extremely tight. Following that, he opened his tightly shut eyes. Chapter 1596. Lulu. A clear voice was heard, and a figure dashed to Baiming Lulu's side. The young man's slender fingers locked onto that student's hand which was pressing on Baiming Lulu's wrist, and forcefully pulled that student's hand down. Liancheng. Baiming Lulu's wrist finally broke free from that student, as she was so frightened that she burrowed into Baiming Liancheng's arms. What's going on? Baiming Liancheng hugged Baiming Lulu tightly as he stared at the other students in front of him and frowned. Madam Qing Luo, these students' eyes. Baiming Lulu's shriek had already made Yi Qing Luo's attention towards this side. Hearing Baiming Liancheng's words, Yi Qing Luo's figure stretched out as she speedily shifted to the side of the both of them. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and met the other student's eyes. She saw that student with a pair of empty and lifeless eyes. In his eyes, there were wisps of black qi lingering around. That was profound Yin Qi. This student's eyes were completely shrouded by a ball of black mist. No wonder Baiming Lulu cried out in fright when she saw it. Profound Yin Qi, in this student's eyes. Could it be that this was a greedy person who had signed a soul contract with the dark forces? This thought had just flashed past her mind when Yi Qing Luo immediately denied it. A cultivator who had signed a soul contract with the dark forces. He was making use of the profound Yin Qi to achieve his own motive. And not like now. His eyes were filled with profound Yin Qi. But this person had long stopped breathing. Take a look at the other students. Yi Qing Luo stared at those eyes which were filled with profound Yin Qi, and after some time, she immediately opened her mouth to give an order. Not long later, Yin Xiaoyi came back with an answer. This should be a third-tier academy. There's a total of 52 students, and all of them have stopped breathing. Not only that, these students who had stopped breathing could still do the same as what they did to Baiming Lulu earlier, stretching out their hands to grab them. Then they opened their eyes. Without exception, their eyes were filled with profound Yin Qi. The entire atmosphere started to turn strange. What on earth are the dark forces trying to do? Yan Xiaoyi's slender brows creased tightly as she stared at those pairs of empty eyes on the ground, feeling goosebumps. No matter how strong she was usually, deep down she was still a woman. Shadow, have you discovered anything? Yi Qing Luo's gaze looked outside the crowd, at the pink dumpling which was still wandering around. Mo Yuing heard the voice and stopped in her tracks. She turned her head stiffly. There was not a trace of emotion on that extremely sweet but extremely expressionless face. His lifeless eyes were even more empty than those of the dead students on the ground. It was a horrifying sight to behold. There's a formation. Mo Ying's red lips opened and closed, her soft voice spitting out 3 words. Array formation? Yi Qing Luo's mind suddenly cleared up. That's right. It was an array formation. The mystical Yin energy that could only be condensed by 50 dark organizations combined. And this third-tier academy student had died mysteriously. It was all because of the array formation. The formation of the dark forces. Have you found the array core? Yi Qing Luo immediately asked. Although Mo Ewing usually had a poker face, she didn't have much of a presence. But she was more attentive. It was precisely because she had no sense of existence. Only then would she be able to investigate the surrounding situation in the shortest time possible. Chapter 1597. F***CK. What kind of heaven-defying formation was this? How come she had never heard of such a formation? Cough cough. In his mind, Old Man Song coughed a few times. This array, the Nirvana realm doesn't have it, the upper realm doesn't have it, but the dark forces can have it. F***CK. To be able to provide an endless supply of dark forces energy, then what's the point of me fighting with them? Yiqing Luo exploded. She was human. People with flesh and blood. Fighting against the monsters of the dark forces was already an incredible feat. Those monsters were even using hacks. Then how was she supposed to fight? That was the rhythm of a suicide mission. Could she just turn around and run? There are not many people in the dark forces, but even the upper realm is very afraid of the dark forces because of the forbidden spells and secret techniques of the dark forces. Old Man Song explained. This array formation was created using the dark forces' unique forbidden curse. It indeed looks savage and inhumane, but this kind of forbidden curse array formation is an existence that cannot be tolerated by the heavens. Doesn't that little lowly already know the direction of the formation eye? As long as the eye of the formation is destroyed, the formation will naturally be broken. What kind of solution was this? Destroy the formation eye. It could break any array formation, okay? She had read quite a lot, so she couldn't be fooled. Ahem. What I mean is that the formation core of this formation is different from other formations. Other formations have barriers and self-protection abilities, but the formation core of a formation created by a forbidden spell is extremely weak. As long as you approach it, the formation core will be destroyed. Sensing Yiqing Luo's inner agitation swelling up, Old Man Song violently coughed a few times and no longer kept him in suspense. It seemed like he could only destroy the formation core. Shadow, where is the eye of the array? Yiqing Luo took a deep breath to ease the emotions in her heart. Mo Yuing was about to speak. Suddenly, he heard a complacent and shameless laughter coming from behind him. Isn't this a student from the devil class? This voice made Yiqing Luo's head hurt. Zi Qianqian, this haunting woman. Why did he bump into Zi Qianqian everywhere he went? Everyone looked toward the source of the voice. Zi Qianqian was dressed in a green academy uniform, looking like a proud plum flower that stood alone in the world. Beside her was Su Xiaolian, who had also changed into a green academy uniform. Yiqing Luo wasn't unfamiliar with this academy uniform. Therefore, he only glanced at it. Yiqing Luo knew which academy Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian had collaborated with. That academy was Phoenix Academy. As expected, behind Zi Qianqian were approximately 140 over students, following behind Jitsong Tian and Lanling Nua in a majestic manner. He left valiantly and in high spirits. He walked like the wind. Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian approached together. He looked at the corpses on the ground that had long since stopped breathing. The two little beauties were so scared that their faces turned pale. She immediately ignored her demeanor and screamed out loud. Zi Qianqian shouted. Jitsong Tian took quick steps forward. After seeing the corpse, Jitsong Tian's eyes actually revealed a wild joy and smile. Devil class. You all actually killed the students from other academies just for the magic crystals. Zi Qianqian directly put a big hat on Yiqing Luo. When he saw Zi Qianqian appear, he was shocked. Yiqing Luo had already guessed the current situation. These students, Zi Qianqian would definitely think of ways and means to push the crime of killing onto devil class. Heavenly Academy would also be disqualified from the competition because of this. Heavenly Academy was not only at the bottom among the other academies. Chapter 1598. The students of the Heavenly Academy are really savage. Jitsong Tian laughed sinisterly as he walked up. All the students in my Celestial Phoenix Academy have seen it clearly. A few students from the Celestial Phoenix Academy looked at the dead students. Boss Ji, these are students from the Wind Vane Academy. All dead? Jeet Songtian casually asked. The students of the Celestial Phoenix Academy immediately nodded. They are all dead. The viciousness in Jeet Songtian's eyes gradually expanded. He sneered as he looked at Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingluo, what else do you have to quibble about? You're slandering me. Devil Class's student's face turned black as he pointed at Jeet Songtian and shouted angrily, when we came here, these people were already dead, so what has it got to do with us? Jeet Songtian gave a cold harumph. There are so many pairs of eyes watching. How could it be fake? Yi Qingluo stretched out her hand to block the Devil Class's students as she stepped forward. Her squinting eyes rose slightly. It was an invisible aura that was being released. This made Jeet Songtian and the others' hearts tremble inexplicably. Jeet Songtian's body tensed up as his expression turned stiff. He turned his head and looked at the 100 or so brothers behind him. He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. I can't let this bitch have another chance to make a comeback. He couldn't let this bitch destroy everything he had. I can't be afraid of this bitch. Jeet Songtian kept on warning himself in his heart. Yi Qingluo's vision lightly swept past Jeet Songtian, Zi Qianqian and the others. Her gaze was calm and extremely cold. It landed on everyone. It was like a thin layer of ice sweeping across their skin. An inexplicable chill ran down his spine. What a coincidence that Celestial Phoenix Academy has come, Yi Qingluo said with a smile. It was indeed a coincidence. Only then did they realize that the students of the Wind Bloodline Academy were all dead. Jeet Songtian led his bunch of brothers as he rushed over. If not for the fact that he was a student of the Wind Bloodline Academy, he would have died to the profound Yin Qi. Yi Qingluo even suspected if these students were killed by Jeet Songtian and the others, intentionally framing her. However, based on the current situation, even if the Wind Vane Academy wasn't killed by the Celestial Phoenix Academy, that was also related to Jeet Songtian. That time when Jeet Songtian joined the Mercenary Association, his name was removed from the Mercenary Association, and the entire Ji family was blacklisted by the Mercenary Association. All these were because of Yi Qingluo, which caused him to have no way to make a comeback. At that critical moment, Jeet Songtian would be targeted by the Dark Forces. He could even make deals with the Dark Forces. These were all within Yi Qingluo's expectations. However, earlier when they were beside the strange beasts, Yi Qingluo didn't sense any profound yin qi from Jeet Songtian. At this moment, close contact, Yi Qingluo had not sensed any profound yin qi from Jeet Songtian. What a coincidence. Of course it was a coincidence. If it wasn't a coincidence, how could I have caught you killing the students of the Wind Vane Academy and exposed the true face of a vicious woman like you? Jeet Songtian puffed out his chest, trying his best to make himself look even more awe-inspiring. Behind her, the 140-plus students of the Celestial Phoenix Academy immediately raised their arms and shouted in unison, "Expose the true face of this vicious woman! I'll expose the true face of this vicious woman!" Their voices were extremely loud and clear in unison. Yi Qingluo's brows rose. These people were apparently trying to lure the students from the other academies over. Chapter 1599. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes as her lips curled into a cold arc which didn't look like a smile. Her expression was calm, without the slightest hint of panic. Everything is based on evidence. You want to make the Heavenly Academy a scapegoat? You've underestimated the Heavenly Academy. She held onto the devouring flame fan and lightly waved it. She raised her brows and said, "Then what if I say that this person was killed by your Celestial Phoenix Academy?" Huh? Do you think? How many people would believe the words of someone like you, who plunders other academies' magical crystals, when you say that? And I have a student from the Heavenly Academy, who personally identified you. Jeet Songtian had long made full preparations, totally not afraid of Yi Qingluo's retaliation. Yi Qingluo's gaze fell onto Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian. Su Xiaolian was supporting Zi Qianqian, and when she sensed Yi Qingluo's line of sight, she immediately stood in front of Zi Qianqian and forced herself to speak out. "Student Yi Qingluo, It's a fact that you killed the Wind Vane Academy students because of the magic crystals. This matter concerns more than 50 lives. Even if it's for the sake of the Heavenly Academy, we will absolutely not watch you commit the wrong things time and time again. Yes, more than 50 lives are at stake. Zi Qianqian looked at those students lying on the ground as he sighed softly, as though he was extremely regretful. Student Yiqing Luo, follow us to meet Gui Wu. The moment Zi Qianqian's voice fell, Yiqing Luo's originally calm and tranquil expression suddenly surfaced a layer of coldness. Those torch-like eyes were like sharp blades that pierced straight into Zi Qianqian's heart. Oh, meet Master Gui Wu? That's a good idea. Her voice was extremely cold, as if it was wrapped in a layer of frost. Zi Qianqian was overwhelmed with shock. How could Yiqing Luo possibly agree to meet Gui Wu? Had Yiqing Luo found out about something? Zi Qianqian's eyes were filled with fear as he met Yiqing Luo's enchanting eyes. How could she possibly let Yiqing Luo meet Gui Wu? If they were to meet Gui Wu, wouldn't the meticulous plan that she and Feng Ling had devised be ruined? They could not let Yiqing Luo leave the blazing flame nest. He could not drag the ghost martial artist into this. She must make Yiqing Luo die here before the Academy's competition. At this moment, the huge commotion created by the Celestial Phoenix Academy. This attracted the attention of many nearby academies. Not long after, the students of the 3 academies walked over. What's going on? One of the academies asked. Jitsong Tian naturally added oil and vinegar as he pushed everything onto Heavenly Academy. I heard someone died. The students from the 3 academies were stunned. A student from one of the academies immediately went to check on the student from the Wind Vane Academy. Then he realized that the students of the Wind Vane Academy had indeed stopped breathing. His face turned pale with fright. They were the elites chosen by the various academies. Regardless of talent or family background, they were both extremely powerful. Although Gui Wujiang's words this time were a little harsh. He even said that he wouldn't care about their lives. But these students understood very well in their hearts. Even in the Jianghu, the ghost martial artist's position was highly respected. It was also impossible for him to watch as his students died in the flame nest. They had always harbored such thoughts. But now that he had seen a student die, he couldn't help but sigh. The fear in the students' hearts was completely unleashed. Chapter 1600. No. Impossible. A clear and melodious female voice suddenly rang out. Following that, a petite figure emerged from the 300 over students and ran towards Yiqing Luo. Little she. Yiqing Luo saw the little girl who had pounced into her arms and her lips unconsciously curled into a smile. The current Yiqing Luo was no longer cold and aloof. Coincidentally, among the 3 academies who had rushed over, one of them was the Universe Academy which Yiqing Luo had saved by the riverside. Sister Qing Luo will not kill people for magic crystals. Sister Qing Luo respects life the most. She stared furiously at Jitsong Tian. Her intuition told her. This man named Jitsong Tian was definitely not an upright person. Jitsong Tian's expression sunk slightly. He had asked Celestial Phoenix Academy students to create a huge commotion. It was to completely seal off Yiqing Luo's escape route. He had not expected that he had attracted Devil Class's helper instead. What academy student? When did he have such a good relationship with Yiqing Luo? Jitsong Tian sized up Shiruashi's uniform. Immediately following that, a tall figure blocked Jitsong Tian's line of sight. Shiruayu stood upright as he stood in front of Jitsong Tian. Student Jitsong Tian, everything must be based on evidence. If you don't have any evidence, then don't keep on slandering Heavenly Academy and slandering Devil Class. Immediately following that, 70 over students walked out from the group and followed Shiruayu as they stood on Yiqing Luo's side. Good. Good. Universe Academy, since you want to be Heavenly Academy's helper, then the Wind Vane Academy student's death is definitely related to you. The both of you are in cahoots. Jitsong Tian was ignored by Universe Academy students as his anger surged. In the past, when Blue Dragon Mercenary Group was still around, whoever saw him, wouldn't they address him respectfully as group leader Ji? But now, A small third-tier academy also dared to look down on him. Ji Tian's eyes were filled with viciousness as he turned his head and called out to his brothers. Find me Gue Wu. Let Gue Wu handle this matter. Student Ji. Zi Qianqian's heart trembled as he immediately spoke out, trying to persuade Ji Tian. Before she could speak, she heard a flirtatious voice interrupting her. Brother Tsangtian is right. The students of the Wind Vein Academy died in the blazing flame lair, whether it was the doing of the devil class or not. Once we find Master Gue Wu, everything will naturally be clear. Lanling Nua walked out flirtatiously as her petite body covered Ji Tian's body. Lanling Nua hadn't dressed up during the past few days in the flame lair. She hadn't dared to appear in front of her classmates. But today, seeing Zi Qianqian pestering Ji Tian nonstop, and even acting coquettishly towards Ji Tian several times, Lanling Nua could no longer endure it. She was the #1 beauty of the Eastern continent. She was the princess of the East continent. Even if she didn't like Ji Tian. But Ji Tian was already her man. She would never allow any woman to snatch her man away. Sister Nua. The minute Ji Tian saw Lanling Nua, his expression instantly turned gentle. He stretched out his long arm and pulled Lanling Nua into his embrace. Aren't you feeling unwell? Why don't you rest more? Such a huge matter has happened, how can I rest in peace? Lanling Nua used a gentle tone to reply. Feeling the concern from Sister Nua, Ji Tian's heart instantly felt a warm current brushing past. He tightened his arms as he laughed softly. All right, Brother Tian will settle this matter immediately, so that my Sister Nua can rest in peace. Lanling Nua pouted coquettishly as she looked at Ji Tian shyly. Chapter 1601. As Lanling Nua said that, she didn't forget to throw a provocative gaze towards Zi Qianqian. Don't you know whose man he is and dare to snatch him away? Who do you think you are? Zi Qianqian's face instantly turned pale, and immediately following that, it turned steely green and then black. That exquisite face revealed a twisted malevolent look. Zi Qianqian's fingers locked onto Su Xiaoyan's wrist as she suppressed the anger in her heart. Goddess Qianqian, you must bear with it. Don't bother about what that coquettish fox wants to do. As long as we drag the time and lure all the students here, our mission will be completed. Su Xiaoyan comforted her softly. Just a little while more and we will be able to watch Yiqing Luo die in pain. Just bear with it for a little while more. Zi Qianqian took a deep breath. What kind of person did that coquettish fox treat her, Zi Qianqian, as? A man like Ji Tian who had no ambition, no ability and no ability, was fit to enter her eyes? A man who could make her, Zi Qianqian, take a fancy to. Other than Nangong Firen, there was no one else. But Zi Qianqian had just calmed herself down in her heart. She saw Ji Tian sending someone to look for Gue Wu under Lanling Nua's persuasion. How could Zi Qianqian allow her plan to fail at the last moment? She could only head up and block Ji Tian. Student Ji, Master Gue Wu said before the competition ends, we will absolutely not be able to find Gue Wu and absolutely not be able to leave the blazing nest. Now is a matter of life and death. Any other rules are all fake. Lanling Nua pushed Zi Qianqian's body away as she revealed a smile which she thought was peerlessly beautiful. This sister, could it be that just because the person who killed the students is from Heavenly Academy, you want to absolve Heavenly Academy? If I wanted to absolve Heavenly Academy, I wouldn't be standing here right now. Zi Qianqian suppressed her anger as she looked coldly at Lanling Nua. On the other hand, Student Lan, you kept persuading Student Ji to look for Master Gue Wu. I'm afraid you've received some benefits from other academies, and intentionally want Celestial Phoenix Academy to break the competition's rules to be eliminated? You're talking rubbish. I wholeheartedly care for Big Brother Tian. How could I possibly cause Celestial Phoenix Academy to be eliminated? Lanling Nua's face instantly flushed red as she held onto Ji Tian's arm. Brother Tian, look at her. Student Z. Ji Tian grumbled as he stared at Zi Qianqian, and immediately turned around to coax Lanling Nua. The devil class students who were watching from afar expressed, children fighting for a man, What a great show! If they fought even more fiercely, this show would be even more exciting. Zi Qianqian was stared at by Ji Tsangtian, causing Zi Qianqian's pride as the #1 beauty to suffer a heavy blow. Her looks and her abilities were clearly above Lan Ling Nua's. Why was Ji Tsangtian's vision always on Lan Ling Nua? Goddess Qianqian. Su Xiaolian could feel the rage in Zi Qianqian's heart surging. He was about to open his mouth to persuade Zi Qianqian. However, he heard the sound of messy footsteps coming from all directions. The students of the various academies gathered and walked over. The moment Emo Hanshang saw the situation of the confrontation, he took a look at Ji Tsangtian and Zi Qianqian. Finally his gaze fell onto the corpses all over the ground. Students died? The various academies' students were all stunned. Some students even specially went over to confirm. After they found out that those students had indeed stopped breathing, their faces were filled with shock and astonishment. Chapter 1602. Yiqing Luo had yet to reply. Su Xiaolian was the first to reply. Devil class students killed 52 students from Wind Vein Academy in order to snatch the magic crystals. When the students from various academies heard that, they all looked towards Yiqing Luo's direction in disbelief. Following that, the other academies also heard this sentence. What? Killing people for the magic crystals? Devil class is too arrogant. They even dared to kill people. We must report this matter to Master Guiwu. This kind of vicious and cruel academy should be expelled from the academy forever. Right. We must report this to Master Guiwu, to the main courtyard. Heavenly Academy is too much. 1,500 over students were gathered in one hall. Just one sentence from each of them could overturn the entire blazing lair. However, the devil class, which was condemned by the masses, remained silent on the spot. Not a single sound was heard, and there was no expression on their faces. It was like they didn't listen to anyone's words at all. Hey, devil class, what's with your attitude? Did you really think that you can do anything just because you performed well during the training? A few of the academy's students were already extremely dissatisfied with Yiqing Luo. Especially, there were at least 17 to 18 academies which had their magic crystals stolen by devil class. Now seeing devil class being involved in such a big matter, all of them couldn't wait to step on it a few times to vent the anger in their hearts. Cough. One must know that there were only 28 academies who entered the blazing lair for training. There were 17 to 18 academies which had been robbed. The remaining academies, if it wasn't for the fact that they reacted fast enough to seek cooperation from Nantao Academy, they would probably have been robbed by devil class. One devil class, 50 to 60 people. But they had robbed one after another. The maximum number of people was 300, at least 50 academies. Devil class's ability was indeed very strong. But it was different now. Their various academies were all gathered together. 1,000 over students. Why would they be afraid of a 50 to 60 people devil class? Especially when devil class was involved in a murder case. Even here, they had ruthlessly taught a lesson to a bunch of devil class students. By then they could also say that it was because devil class was disobedient after killing someone and forcefully fought with them, trying to escape. And they were the envoys of justice, stopping devil class. Thinking like this, the various academy students' gazes towards Yiqing Luo instantly turned sinister. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly, as her mind kept on spinning rapidly. She didn't have the leisure to pay attention to those insignificant words from the various academies. His mind was filled with strange thoughts. This was too strange. Had she overlooked something? His brain was working non-stop. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo's gaze fixed on a certain spot. That was in Zi Qianqian's direction. At this moment, Zi Qianqian was looking at the surrounding students from the various academies, his eyes filled with joy and surprise. Su Xiaolian whispered something into Zi Qianqian's ear. Zi Qianqian's face lit up with joy, and his eyes emitted an intense and dense killing intent. Shortly after, the two of them looked at each other and smiled. Immediately after, Su Xiaolian held on to Zi Qianqian's arm. and was about to take advantage of the commotion to sneak away. However, he heard a cold interrogative voice. Why did you all rush over at the same time? That was Yi Qingluo's voice. The entire audience fell silent for several breaths of time. Even Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian stopped in their tracks. Chapter 1603. What the? This slut is too arrogant. How dare she question us in return? What does it have to do with you how we rushed over? You're a woman who doesn't hesitate to kill others in order to plunder magic crystals. What rights do you have to question us? Yi Qingluo, you've already violated Ghost Martial Masters competition rules. Your Heavenly Academy has already been eliminated. All the students from the various academies started to berate her furiously. One after another, it shook everyone's ears as though it was pierced by a sharp blade. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes as her eyes were covered with frost, so cold that it could pierce through one's bones. Her gaze swept past the surrounding students one by one. I'll ask again. Why on earth did all of you rush over at the same time? That chilling gaze made the students from the various academies inexplicably tighten their hearts. They were completely stunned by this pair of eyes. Whether it was the heart or the soul, as though they were pinched in the palm of Yi Qingluo's hand. They were powerless to struggle, powerless to break free. What kind of imposing manner was this? How arrogant must it be, to be able to make them feel that they couldn't defy it? This majestic aura was actually from a young lady. A young lady who they originally looked down on. Released such an imposing manner. Madam Qingluo, we heard the commotion over here and saw. It seemed like it was on fire and was filled with smoke. We thought something had happened, so we came over. The one who spoke was the one who was rescued by the stream. Me too. Right. I was attracted by that ball of smoke, but the minute I came over, I only saw you guys. Right, it's smoke. When these words were said by the few academies at the same time, the crowd instantly understood something. Immediately, their faces turned pale. Oh no! There's a trap! Suddenly, the students from the various academies saw a shadow flashing past in midair. In a breath's time, they saw Yi Qingluo standing in front of Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian. Zi Qianqian was apparently shocked. When Yi Qingluo appeared, she gave a shrill shriek as she retreated several steps backwards. If it wasn't for Su Xiaolian who kept pulling her, Zi Qianqian would have fallen onto the ground in a sorry state. What do you want to do? Before Zi Qianqian could finish his sentence, he suddenly let out a miserable shriek. Yi Qingluo directly stretched out her hand and clasped Zi Qianqian's shoulder. Her slender fingers were sparkling like jade, like the most beautiful jade in the world. However, in Zi Qianqian's eyes, those hands were torture tools from hell. Her jade-like fingers seemed to be lightly resting on Zi Qianqian's shoulder. Only Zi Qianqian himself knew. Her shoulder bones had already been crushed by Yi Qingluo. The intense pain caused Zi Qianqian's facial features to contort. Yi Qingluo's elbow slightly exerted force as her 5 fingers clasped onto Zi Qianqian's lower jaw. It's you. A voice as calm as still water came out from Yi Qingluo's mouth. His eyes were ice-cold. Emotionless words. This caused Zi Qianqian's heart to gradually sink into a state of collapse. This was not a question. It was a certainty. Yi Qingluo had already guessed that all these were because of her. Zi Qianqian was in so much pain that her face turned pale. However, when she thought about the current situation, she could not help but laugh coldly. So what if it's me? Yi Qingluo, you can no longer escape. All of you will die. Yi Qingluo's lips curled up slightly. Her long and narrow eyes outlined a cold arc. Her 5 fingers tightened again. The lower jawbone was also directly shattered in Yi Qingluo's palm. Chapter 1604. A miserable shriek rang out from Zi Qianqian's mouth. Yi Qingluo loosened her fingers. Zi Qianqian fell weakly onto the ground. Su Xiaolian immediately supported Zi Qianqian. Zi Qianqian opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a single word. Bright red blood oozed from her mouth. You You want to kill someone in front of so many students? You simply have no respect for the law. Su Xiaolian was so frightened that her entire body trembled. She felt uneasy as she looked at her blood-stained hands. Your debt will be settled by Master Gui Wu and the headquarters. Not only will the two of you become the sinners of the Nirvana realm, but your two families will also be destroyed because of your foolish actions today. Yi Qingluo's slender brows furrowed slightly as her clear and charming eyes shot straight towards Zi Qianqian. Yu, his powerful aura was so oppressive that Su Xiaolian couldn't even make a sound. Zi Qianqian's fingers trembled as she tightly grasped Su Xiaolian's sleeve. His blood-stained hands looked especially horrifying. You, all of you, must die today. Every single word was like a demon demanding his life. The surrounding students felt their hairs stand on end when they saw Zi Qianqian's ferocious and bloody appearance. Get out of here. Yes, let's go first. This place is too strange. After coming to their senses, the leaders of the various academies immediately called out to their students and spread out in all directions. They could stand in the fire nest. This also meant that they were elite students handpicked by the various academies. Not only was he talented, he was also not stupid. After Yi Qingluo's reminder, and looking at Zi Qianqian's attitude, soon he understood. This was a trap. It's useless. We can't get out of here. Yi Qingluo looked at the students who were escaping in all directions as her eyes were covered with a chilly intent. She had always been vigilant and calculative. However, he didn't expect that the dark faction would use Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian, these two cripples, to set up a forbidden spell formation here. Furthermore, he had lured all of the students here. Dark forces. He was prepared to make his move. How would these students be able to leave this place? As expected, the students who had scattered and left one after another retreated step by step. One by one, they returned to their original positions. He forced the students of the academy to retreat step by step. They were rows of black-robed figures. Their imposing manner was like that of evil spirits that had come from hell. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes as she sized up the surrounding dark forces which were pressing over. As expected, it was just as the mutated beast had said. There were about 400 people in the Dark Coalition. Although there were only 400 Dark Ones from the Dark Forces, but, facing these young men and women who had yet to experience slaughter, and had yet to truly step onto the battlefield, Lin Fan's eyes widened. Even if the total number of students added up was 1,500 people, it would be impossible for them to win. But the Dark Forces wanted to deal with them. It was also a piece of cake. This group of dark people. Yi Qingluo could clearly sense the extremely strong profound yin qi on them. These dark beings. It was different from the dark ones she had met before. Be it in terms of strength or intelligence, this batch of dark ones was more than a level higher than the dark ones they had encountered before. What is this? What's going on? Why can't we get out? Why did he come back? And these damn things, who the hell are they? For a moment, the fear in the students' hearts was ignited. Chapter 1605. The students of the various academies were already panicking out of their wits. Boss and I, what should we do? These people don't look friendly. Boss and I, aren't we competing in the academy? These people. Could it be that these people were deliberately sent by Master Gui Wu to increase the pressure on us? Boss and I, can we leave this place alive? Voices filled with fear rang out. The person who was called Boss and I in the middle was Nantao Academy's boss, who was also the Academy's representative. N.I. Lingkong. N.I. Lingkong was the strongest person in Class A1 of Nantao Academy. It was similar to the existence of High Profound Class 2 in the Heavenly Academy, Lu Shuiyu. After entering the Flame Lair for training, Nantao Academy had always listened to N.I. Lingkong's orders and persisted until now. Now that something had happened, everyone's first thought was to seek N.I. Lingkong's help. N.I. Lingkong's expression was grave, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. They had already reached an agreement with 7 or 8 academies, and he was prepared to collect more magic crystals to defeat the Heavenly Academy in one fell swoop. Just as the few academies were discussing how to deal with the devil class, suddenly, A series of shouts came from not far away. Then he saw black smoke rising from the sky not far away. Just like a fire, black smoke filled the entire nest that was glowing with scarlet flames. The other academies thought that since there were many of them, there was nothing to be afraid of, so they all headed in that direction. Unexpectedly, but he couldn't get out of this damned place. He looked around at the black-robed men surrounding them. Enai Lingkong was not foolish enough to think that this was an opponent sent by Guiwu to increase their pressure. Enai Lingkong had a bad feeling when he saw the bodies of the 50-odd students from the Wind Vane Academy, lying on the ground. Han Shang, what do you think we should do now? Enai Lingkong's vision fell onto his own brother, Emo Han Shang. Emo Han Shang was the young master of the Mercenary Association. He had been in the mercenary guild since he was young, following other mercenary groups around. In terms of wilderness survival and actual combat experience, he far surpassed them. Lingkong, this matter isn't simple. These people, I'm afraid they are the Dark Ones from the Dark Forces. Emo Han Shang squinted his delicate brows as he stared at the surrounding black-robed men. Dark Forces? Enai Lingkong's face turned pale. Why would someone from the Dark Organization appear in the flame lair? Could it be? Enai Lingkong's gaze suddenly turned towards Yiqing Luo's direction. It's her? She's the one who attracted the Dark Forces. Yiqing Luo had once engaged in a fierce battle with the Dark Forces in King Ling's tomb. With the power of the Holy Beast and the Divine Dragon, they defeated the Dark Forces. Meanwhile, the Dark Forces had infiltrated the Nirvana realm once again, attracting the attention of the major sects and clans, and they worked together to deal with the Dark Forces. What's more, Yiqing Luo and the Imperial Palace's DMO Xian's relationship was not shallow. Recently, the Imperial Palace had been fighting with the Dark Forces several times. A series of conjectures appeared in his mind. Enai Lingkong increasingly felt that the Dark Forces were targeting Yiqing Luo. If they were here for Yiqing Luo, then they just had to hand Yiqing Luo over. Wouldn't that solve the problem? Lingkong, dispel your thoughts. Emo Han Shang could tell what Enai Lingkong was thinking with a single glance. He calmly lifted his eyelids. If the Dark Forces were here for Qing Luo, they wouldn't have made such a big fuss. What do you mean? Enai Lingkong frowned. Chapter 1606. Barrier? Enai Lingkong cried out in surprise. No wonder. They couldn't leave this place no matter what. It turned out that the way was blocked by a barrier. The barrier was clearly set up by the Dark Forces. From what Qing Luo said to Zi Qianqian earlier, if I didn't guess wrongly, I'm afraid this dark force was attracted over by Zi Qianqian. This barrier was able to be conjured under the eyes of Gui Wu and the other elders, and it was all because of Zi Qianqian's help. Emo Han Shang's analysis made Enai Lingkong's expression suddenly turn gloomy. A pair of sharp eyes glared fiercely at Zi Qianqian, who was leaning against Su Xiaoyan in a sorry state and covered in blood. I've heard that the Dark Forces have always been enticing profound practitioners to sign soul contracts with them. Emo Han Shang's gaze was solemn, which also represents that the forces of darkness require the souls of profound practitioners. And this time, the forces of darkness have trapped us within this barrier, so I'm afraid it's because they want to take away our souls. Take away our souls? Enai Lingkong's expression turned ugly. Are we all going to die here? Not necessarily. Emo Han Shang suddenly raised his eyes, as his gaze went past Enai Lingkong, looking straight at a certain spot behind him. Cooperate with Qing Luo, and drag on till Master Gui Wu breaks the barrier, and rushes over to save us. Devil class is Yiqing Luo? Enai Lingkong's brows creased. Why are you so close to that bunch of people from Devil class? We had just agreed to cooperate with various academies, and now we're cooperating with Yiqing Luo. When your life is at stake, the most important thing is to stay alive, isn't it? Emo Han Shang smiled as he patted Enai Lingkong's shoulder lightly. For the sake of the overall situation, believe in Qing Luo. Enai Lingkong and Emo Han Shang had been good friends for many years. Enai Lingkong knew his brother's character very well. He was someone who could make the young master of the Mercenary Association, who was used to seeing outstanding profound practitioners, Look at him in a different light. There must be something special about her. With this thought in mind, Enai Lingkong clenched his fists. All right. I'll believe you this time. Saying that, Enai Lingkong pushed aside those students behind him and walked towards Yi Qingluo's direction. The enemy was right in front of them. Both sides' auras clashed, but no one dared to act rashly. As for the academies, they had placed all their hopes on the Nantao Academy. Seeing this, the boss of Nantao College moved. The gazes of all the students also followed closely. Following that, she saw Enai Lingkong standing in front of Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingluo's slender brows rose slightly as she sized up the imposing young man in front of her. Student Yi Qingluo, those people dressed in black robes are the dark forces' dark agents, right? Enai Lingkong didn't beat around the bush as he spoke out directly. Dark forces? The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. The whispers of fear and clamor grew louder. When the dark forces heard Enai Lingkong's question, they sneered disapprovingly. They had no intention of deliberately concealing their identities. Even if they knew that they were dark ones from the dark forces, so what? In the end, these students would still be buried here. Oh, so Boss Enai also knows about the dark forces. Yi Qingluo's brows rose as though she was in deep thoughts. What you said is right. Their bodies are all emitting the dark forces' dark aura. As for Enai Lingkong's goal, Yi Qingluo could more or less guess what was going on. Chapter 1607. Yi Qingluo glanced behind him with a smile which didn't look like a smile, as though she was hesitating and wanted to speak out. If Nantao Academy were to cooperate with me now, wouldn't we be letting down the other academy's good intentions? What she guessed earlier was indeed right. They had plundered the various academies' magic crystals. Those academies had indeed gone over to Nantao Academy. Now this scenario was a little awkward. A few academies had gone over to Nantao Academy to seek cooperation, seeking to get rid of Heavenly Academy, in order to take revenge for their stolen magic crystals. Now, Nantao Academy's big boss had initiated cooperation with Heavenly Academy's Yi Qingluo. Those few big bosses who had gone over to Nantao Academy had a colorful expression on their faces. Enai Lingkong was stunned as he turned back to look at those few big bosses and opened his mouth, wanting to explain something. A slender hand was placed on his shoulder. Mo Hanshang walked up slowly as he stared at Yi Qingluo with some reproach. Qingluo, stop making fun of him. Soon after, Mo Hanshang's expression was calm as he looked at the few big bosses of the academy. It's just as what all the students are thinking. These people are all from the dark forces. Moreover, they want to take away all of our lives, as well as our souls. Under the current situation, we must unite. Only by surviving can we continue to fight for the academy's competition. Isn't that so? Those few big bosses' expressions started to congeal. If these people were from the dark forces, if they wanted to escape from the dark forces, then they must rely on themselves. What Mo Hanshang said was very right. Only by surviving would they have the capital to fight. If they lost their lives, what was the point of them seeking refuge to Nantao Academy to go against Heavenly Academy? Right. Only by surviving can we continue to fight for the academy. Now isn't the time for personal grudges. The other party is from the dark forces. I heard that the dark forces are a bunch of devils who kill without batting an eyelid. Their methods are cruel and extremely bloody. Unite! Unite! The few academy's students raised their arms and cheered loudly at this instance. It immediately ignited all the students' fighting spirit. Those few academies happened to be the academies which Yi Qingluo had saved by the stream. Yi Qingluo looked at the surrounding students' morale, which was obviously ignited. But this kind of passion didn't last for too long. All of you shut up. A sharp, furious voice came from the Dark Coalition. The Dark Ones slowly dispersed, revealing a small path. One of them was wearing a long black robe. Her figure was curvy under the black robe. Yi Qingqian? When Yi Qingluo saw that person, her slender brows rose slightly into an arc. She had actually come in person. Then that wolf Saint Law, who doted on her to the bone, had also come. Yi Qingqian didn't use the black robe to cover her face, as she exposed her face in front of everyone's eyes. Her exquisite eyebrows had now become even more alluring, just like a real fox. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 were stunned on the spot. Yi Qingqian? You are Yi Qingqian. Someone recognized Yi Qingqian's face. They couldn't believe it. That fickle Yi Qingqian, who had become a laughingstock in Three Springs City, had actually become a member of the dark forces. Moreover, looking at Yi Qingqian's expression, clearly his position in the dark world was not low. Whoosh! There was a piercing sound. Yi Qingqian's gaze suddenly turned sharp. Chapter 1608. That Intermediate Profound Class 2 student only felt a cold glint flashing past her face. That cold glint revealed an extremely dense murderous aura. She retreated backwards in horror. But how could her speed match up to the current Yi Qingqian? That burst of profound chi was like a hot knife through butter, directly pressing towards the Intermediate Profound Class 2 student's face. Bam! Just when the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students thought that they were dead meat. But they didn't feel the pain that they had imagined. She quietly opened her eyes. The first thing that entered his eyes was a feather fan that was gorgeous like a fiery glow. The stars and fire were flickering, beautiful beyond compare. Glower Flame Fan. This was Yi Qingluo's Glower Flame Fan. The Intermediate Profound Class 2 students were ecstatic as they looked towards the direction of the feather fan. Sure enough, they saw Yi Qingluo standing by her side, using the Glower Flame Fan to block Yi Qingqian's attack. Madam Qingluo, thank you. Yi Qingluo glanced sideways. Stand aside. The female student had just saved her life. Naturally, she didn't dare to disobey as she trembled and returned to her companions. At this moment, the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students looked at Yi Qingqian with shock and astonishment, and also hatred and disgust. Who could have expected that Yi Qingqian, who had a bad reputation, would use such a method to once again appear in front of everyone? From today onwards, please call me Guardian Hu. Yi Qingqian's curved brows, when she spoke, her voice rose, revealing a trace of amorous feelings. If anyone calls this guardian's name wrongly, the next move is not something that Yi Qingluo can block even if she wants to. None of the students dared to open their mouths. Yi Qingluo swayed the Glower Flame Fan. Her footsteps were light as she passed through the crowd and walked towards Yi Qingqian. The students, because of Yi Qingluo's actions, they all sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Everyone's gazes were fixed on Yi Qingluo. That figure, petite and lovely, but it revealed a sense of oppression that couldn't be ignored, slender but proud. You. What do you want to do? Yi Qingqian saw Yi Qingluo walking towards her. Her fear towards Yi Qingluo made her unable to restrain her pale face as she trembled slightly. The scenes of the past. It appeared in front of Yi Qingqian. The humiliation that Yi Qingluo had brought to her. She would never forget it. Hatred and anger surged from Yi Qingqian's heart. There were circles of mysterious yin qi lingering in those amorous eyes. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes and stared at the circle of black qi in Yi Qingqian's eyes as she smiled calmly. Eldest sister really has true love for the Wolf Saint technique. In order to be together with the Wolf Saint technique, you can even abandon the Yi family and Three Springs sect. If old ancestor were to find out about this, I wonder if he would fulfill eldest sister's wish to leave the Yi family's genealogy. Yi Qingluo's words pointed out Yi Qingqian's current situation. Wolf Saint technique? It was obviously a certain boss of the underground forces. In other words, Yi Qingqian really couldn't change her fickle character. Even after arriving at the underground forces, she still resorted to all sorts of methods to seduce men. That was how she managed to achieve such a position in the underground forces? Heh. Instead of worrying about this protector, why don't you worry more about yourselves? Yi Qingqian gave a cold harumph as her eyes turned chilly. When the array is combined into one, all of you will. She suddenly lowered her voice as she leaned close to Yi Qingluo's ear, and spat out a word with a sneer. Die. Silence. A deathly silence. The entire fire lair fell into silence. Chapter 1609. When she heard the last 3 words, Yi Qingqian's face suddenly turned pale. That voice was clear and ethereal, as though a voice from hell, using an extremely gentle voice, bringing her along to hell. You. Yi Qingqian's heart thumped as she was so frightened that she retreated several steps back. After being supported by the few black-robed men, Yi Qingqian still had some lingering fears. Sinister and vicious eyes stared intently at Yi Qingluo, who was pressing on. But she saw Yi Qingluo's lips curling into a smile. Her eyes were calm. That smile, which didn't look like a smile, was gazing at her, as though it was bottomless. As though there was a whirlpool, which was pulling her into that whirlpool. Yi Qingqian quivered as her fingers clenched into a fist as her expression turned vigilant. Yi Qingluo, I'd like to see what other great abilities you have. Even if Yi Qingluo had wings now, she would absolutely not be able to escape from this place. Setting up an enchantment and a forbidden spell array, Yi Qingluo would definitely die today. Yi Qingluo smiled lightly as she waved her feather fan and turned back to Devil Class's side. Long Yunjian and the rest immediately went up to her. Are you all right? I'm fine. Yi Qingluo saw everyone's worried gazes as she shook her head. This time the dark forces obviously came prepared. Looks like King of Darkness's requirement towards us young and clean cultivators' souls is increasing. This also meant that King of Darkness's seal was about to be lifted. So these students' souls, we must protect them. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes as her voice turned chilly. Earlier Yi Qingqian mentioned combining the arrays. Is it this forbidden spell array and the array which absorbs our soul power? And I Ruopan asked softly. Yi Qingluo nodded. It should be like this. The dark ones of the dark forces only surrounded them here. They didn't start a massacre, which was enough to tell that they had a deeper motive. Yi Qingqian's earlier words about combining the arrays, Yi Qingluo hadn't thought deeply into it. And I Ruopan instead saw through the clues. She had to admit that the dark forces had really made sufficient preparations this time round. An unbreakable barrier. A forbidden spell array which could continuously provide the dark forces energy, coupled with a forbidden spell array which could absorb souls. When these 2 arrays were completely combined, these 1,000 students were totally meat on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Qingluo, you've crossed hands with the dark forces before, and you have such a stunning performance in this aspect. How should we leave this ghastly place now? Mo Hanshang also heard their discussion as he opened his mouth to ask with a grave expression. Yi Qingluo looked at the various academy's bosses, and they had all automatically gathered around Devil Class's surroundings. Upon hearing Mo Hanshang's question, they all started to speak. Once they heard Mo Hanshang's question, all started. However, they understood that once the formation was united, they would all die here. The reason why the dark forces are so powerful is because they have forbidden spells or secret techniques that our Nirvana realm can't use. Yi Qingluo explained, but this kind of forbidden curse or secret art usage belongs to the act of going against heaven's will, destroying the laws of this heaven way. The person who cast the curse will also suffer the punishment of heaven way. Mo Hanshang's eyes lit up. Your meaning is, as long as we find the person who cast the curse, we can destroy the array? Chapter 1610. Although that elder's battle power is lacking, his spirit power is extremely strong. Furthermore, he knows a lot of curse techniques and secret techniques. Because of that, the Darkness Protector will definitely protect that elder very well. Yi Qingluo's gaze swept past the surrounding academy's bosses. Mo Hanshang was the first to react. I understand. We have to pay attention to where the Dharma protectors are the most concentrated. That's where the elders who cast the curse are hiding. That's right. Yi Qingluo gave Mo Hanshang an admiring look. This kid's reaction was godly. What should we do? Enai Lingkong's brows creased as he looked at Mo Hanshang, who was looking at Yi Qingluo with a look of worship, as his expression was slightly impatient. Yi Qingluo's lips curled as she gave a light smile. If you're willing to listen to my instructions, perhaps we might have a chance to destroy the array. The academy bosses' faces darkened as they looked at each other for a long time. towards Yiqing Luo. All the academies were unable to wholeheartedly trust him. Although the devil class had been performing exceptionally well and outstandingly in the special training recently. However, Yiqing Luo's reputation as the useless seventh Missy had already spread all over the country. A person who had been called trash for more than a decade. It was just a few days of dazzling performance. It really wasn't enough to wash away everyone's perception. Amidst this strange silence, Qiankuan Academy's eldest brother Shiruayu replied in a deep voice. My Qiankuan Academy will listen to student Yiqing Luo's instructions. Yiqing Luo nodded with a faint smile. After a few breaths' time, another student spoke up. I, Luo Mo Yuan, represent the King College and listen to Yiqing Luo's instructions. Following that, the leaders of the academies expressed their opinions one after another. These academies were mostly the academies which were saved by Yiqing Luo earlier at the riverside. The remaining dozen academies still had some resistance and hesitation in their hearts. After all, this Yiqing Luo had led Devil Class to snatch their magic crystals not too long ago. Now they had to obey Yiqing Luo. It was really difficult to choose. I don't agree. Suddenly, a loud voice rang out. She saw Jitsong Tian arrogantly raising his head. Yiqing Luo, you slut! How dare you deploy my Celestial Phoenix Academy's students? The dark forces have appeared here because of you. Jitsong Tian's words made the entire space sink into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly as her gaze met Jitsong Tian's eyes. Her pink lips curled up slightly, a smile lingering at the corner of her mouth. Once again, she had guessed correctly. This Jitsong Tian was indeed involved with the dark forces. However, this Jitsong Tian wasn't tainted by the profound Yin Qi. It seemed like the dark forces had put in a lot of effort to make her lower her guard. Jitsong Tian's words indeed made some sense. However, it didn't make sense. Her existence was merely a fuse. Even if she wasn't here, the dark forces needed a large number of clean souls of young profound practitioners. He could only start from the various academies. Even if it wasn't now, in the near future, these students would also become food for the King of Darkness. Jitsong Tian saw Yiqing Luo not saying a word. He thought that what Lanling Nua had taught him was the truth. Immediately, he straightened his back and snorted coldly. Don't think that I don't know the inside story. The dark forces have chased you all the way here to seek revenge. You want to use everyone's power to help you deal with the dark forces. Jitsong Tian finished his words. The expressions of the dozen or so academy bosses, who were still hesitating, changed drastically. Chapter 1611. Students like them had no grudges with the dark forces. Why would the underworld organization want their lives? In the various academies, only the devil class of the Heavenly Academy had enmity with the dark forces. If the dark organization had come to the flame lair for revenge, then the dark organization would not have come to the flame lair. It did make sense. Big brother Tsongtian is right. Don't even think about using everyone's power. Lanling Nua chimed in. You still haven't given us an explanation for the students of the Wind Vein Academy dying in the blazing nest, and now you're trying to trick us into dying for you. You're too vicious. When Jitsong Tian heard his beloved woman helping him, he became even more complacent. The more the bosses of the academies listened, the more indignant they felt. Wasn't this Yiqing Luo too sinister? He actually wanted to use everyone. Hearing everyone's abuse and doubts towards Yiqing Luo, Shiruashi's eyes instantly turned red as she retorted. You're the representatives of the academy. Are you people who listen to the wind and rain? Emo Hanshang nodded his head and chimed in. Student Jitsong Tian's words have no proof. On what basis do you think that Qing Luo wants to make use of everyone? His voice paused as an icy cold intent flashed past Emo Hanshang's eyes. If we're talking about making use of others, I think you, Jitsong Tian, are that kind of treacherous villain. Ever since he heard Zhao Bo's story, Emo Hanshang's impression of Jitsong Tian was extremely bad. You took advantage of your brother's feelings and trust towards you. For the sake of Lanling Nua, you killed your own brother who has gone through life and death with you. Even now, You don't have any regrets and are still together with this woman. Emo Hanshang gave a cold laugh. Just based on your character, whatever you say, I won't believe a single word. You. Jitsong Tian's face instantly sunk. One's dark history was actually brought out in the open. No one would be able to tolerate it. In the past, they were afraid of Emo Hanshang because Emo Hanshang was the Mercenary Association's young patriarch. Now, his Ji family had been completely blacklisted by the Mercenary Union. Why would he need to curry favor with a young master? Immediately, Jitsong Tian's face turned black as he released Lan Lingnua's waist as he raised his palm and struck out a palm wind towards Emo Hanshang. Jitsong Tian. Emo Hanshang's expression sunk as he raised his hand to counterattack. His shoulder was pressed down by a slender palm. A red feather fan flashed with an enchanting brilliance. It easily blocked Jitsong Tian's palm wind. Yiqing Luo slowly walked past Emo Hanshang and stood in front of him as her eyes squinted as she looked at Jitsong Tian quietly. Her face was expressionless and her eyes were cold. Jitsong Tian's body trembled slightly, and under that gaze, he actually wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy. Jitsong Tian resisted the urge to embarrass himself as he went on full alert. Don't waste time with him. He's just trying to stall for time. Yiqing Luo's chilly voice drifted into everyone's ears. Like a clap of thunder, every word and sentence struck the hearts of everyone present. If you don't believe me, feel free to leave. Of course, if the dark forces try to stop you from leaving, I won't help you at all. If you trust me, then don't say anything more and hurry up. The leaders of the dozen academies hesitated. She looked at Jitsong Tian's direction for some time. In the end, there were 5 to 6 academies who gritted their teeth and walked towards Yiqing Luo. With this departure, several academies also followed closely behind. After all, it was a matter of life and death. No one dared to use their own lives or their fellow students' lives to gamble. In the end, no matter how Jitsong Tian shouted. Chapter 16:12. Yiqing Luo used the shortest time possible to arrange the various academies' students into their respective responsibilities. After a few days of training, Yiqing Luo more or less had some understanding towards the various academies' comprehensive ability. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to lead the devil class to plunder 18 academies' magic crystals so smoothly. From the start to the end, there wasn't any special activity from the dark forces. Yiqing Qian stood in front of the dark forces as she sneered at them. That gaze seemed as though she was looking at an ant struggling at death's door. It could be seen that the dark forces had made sufficient preparations this time round. They also had absolute confidence to take in all the students' souls. Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision glanced at Yiqing Qian's complacent expression as a cold smile flashed past her eyes. Seeing the dark forces being so arrogant, she was even more assured towards her own plan. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she looked at the students who were all ready to go into action and laughed lightly. Before we start, I still need to settle something. Saying that, she turned around and faced Zi Qianqian's direction. Su Xiaolian was supporting Zi Qianqian, who was covered in blood and moaning in pain as they left silently. They were already far away from the crowd, and were just a few steps away from leaving the array barrier. Suddenly, the surroundings became extremely quiet. Su Xiaolian's footsteps halted as she felt a chill down her spine. She realized something as she turned her head around. Indeed, she saw Yiqing Luo's arms were crossed as she looked at Zi Qianqian, and her direction with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Su Xiaolian's legs turned into jelly as she immediately supported Zi Qianqian, and quickened her footsteps as they dashed forward. Behind her, a ghostly laughter followed closely. Did you think that you helped them to bury the array's medium? The dark forces would let you off just because of that? That voice was right beside her ears. Su Xiaolian was so frightened that her legs turned into jelly as she didn't manage to support Zi Qianqian properly. She was even tripped by Zi Qianqian's leg. The both of them fell onto the ground. What dark forces? You're spouting rubbish. Su Xiaolian's body trembled as she looked at Yiqing Luo in terror. We didn't help the dark forces, we obviously only. Shut up. Zi Qianqian endured the pain as he berated Su Xiaoyan angrily, and subsequently stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. It's your people who said that everything must be based on evidence. We don't know any dark forces at all. How could we help them bury a matrix medium? Yiqing Luo slowly curled her dimples into a smile. The area of this forbidden spell array is so huge. In order to bury the medium, it must have taken up quite a lot of time. And the person who buried the medium, his hands should have been tainted with thick, profound yin qi. As soon as she finished speaking, Su Xiaoyan had already reflexively raised her hand and sniffed it. Idiot! Zi Qianqian gritted his teeth and glared at Su Xiaoyan. Only then did Su Xiaoyan realize her mistake, and hurriedly put her hands behind her back. However, her instinctive behavior had already fallen into the eyes of the students from the various academies. Yes or no, I will not say for now. Yiqing Luo squatted down and her fingertips suddenly flicked out a pill and slipped it into Zi Qianqian's mouth. Zi Qianqian wanted to vomit, but the pill melted in her mouth. Following that, Yiqing Luo popped another pill into Su Xiaoyan's mouth. In the blink of an eye, their bodies were so stiff that they could not move. No matter how much strength they used, their bodies were like rocks. Yiqing Luo lifted her leg and casually kicked the both of them to a spot not too far away. Chapter 16:13. Madam Qing Luo, you might as well kill this kind of person. Why should we spare her life? So this whatever array, this barrier, is the medium which the both of them buried. If we don't kill them, how are we going to appease our anger? The students were filled with righteous indignation. All of them couldn't wait to tear out Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaoyan's tendons and bones. It was these two people who had caused them to fall into this life and death predicament. Death to them is a release. Yiqing Luo sneered. I believe that Master Gue Wu and the headquarters will help us to settle the both of them. The students' clamoring voices stopped. They instantly understood Yiqing Luo's plan. Indeed, if these two sluts died so quickly, wouldn't it be a release for them? If this matter were to be blown to the headquarters, in order to give an explanation to the various academies and large clans, they would definitely use all methods to find out the whereabouts of the dark forces from Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaoyan. These two people's clans, they would definitely be destroyed. This was the biggest punishment for these two sluts. Yiqing Luo used the same method to kick Jitsong Tian and Lanling Nua to Zi Qianqian's side. The reason was, in case someone created trouble later on. As for the other Celestial Phoenix Academy students, their boss was gone. Other than submitting to Yiqing Luo, they had no other choice. Moreover, they heard that Jitsong Tian had killed a few brothers from his mercenary group for Lanling Nua. How would Celestial Phoenix Academy's students have the mood to sell their lives for Jitsong Tian? Everyone, including those from the dark forces, had not seen it at all. At the same time when Yiqing Luo fed the pills into their mouths, her fingertips flicked out an extremely small crystal clear pearl. That pearl fell into the sand on the ground, and in a blink of an eye, it was swept away by the sand. In a blink of an eye, the ground was already empty. Yiqing Luo returned to the front of the crowd as her vision looked towards Yiqing Qian, who was standing in front. Your expression tells me that the two arrays are about to merge into one. Yiqing Qian's eyes were filled with viciousness. That's right. But I've always liked to watch the prey's final struggle, especially. You personally put on a show. What a coincidence. I also like to see the drama of the complacent prey dying a tragic death in despair when their plans fail. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Yiqing Qian's expression sunk as she looked viciously at the dark ones beside her. All of you, play with these fellows who don't know what's good for you and enjoy the feeling of prey struggling. Yes. Guardian who? The dark ones responded in unison. Following that, the dark one's aura suddenly burst forth as they took the initiative to attack. In this area of the curse array, their dark yin qi could be supplied continuously. Torturing these students was a piece of cake. Devil class students, release your weights. Yiqing Luo's vision swept across the crowd. And the weighted soft armor on you, remove it. Everyone was taken aback. They seemed to have just realized that they were also wearing soft armors that weighed about 70 kilograms. After a few days of hard and tiring training, they had almost forgotten about this matter. When Yi Qingluo mentioned it, all the students used their fastest speed to remove the weighted soft armor. The moment the weight-bearing soft armor landed on the ground, they could clearly feel the changes brought about by their own bodies. Light as a feather. Chapter 16:14. Bam Bam Bam. Bam Bam Bam. While the students from various academies were shocked at how light they were as feathers, they heard the sound of a heavy object falling onto the ground. The students looked towards the source of the sound. Then they saw Devil Class's group of perverts undoing a strap on their wrists, undoing the straps on their waists and legs. That strap landed on the ground. It was even louder than the soft armors. Wasn't this a weight belt? This group of perverts. Not only were they wearing the specially made soft armors by Ghost martial artist, their forelimbs were also tied with weight belts? Did they need to be so perverted? The students from various academies were so shocked that their hearts were trembling. Some students didn't believe it. They specially went up to pick up the weight belt. But that weight pressed that student's veins were popping out before he could barely lift it up. A loud dong sound was heard. The student really couldn't lift it up properly, as the weight belt in his hands fell onto the ground. In the students' minds, there were only 3 words existing: true, change, abnormal. What are you all still standing there for? Waiting for death? Yi Qingluo's cold voice rang sharply. The students from various academies heard a buzzing sound in their ears. Their consciousness suddenly became clear, only to see in front of them the dark ones covering the sky and earth, attacking in groups. Ah! The students cried out in shock. They had not regained their senses in time. Just as the students were trying to avoid the dark one's attack, suddenly, a red glow appeared in front of them, as swift as thunder, as fast as lightning, as though it was weaving an impenetrable large net in front of the students. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The dark one's attack fell into that large net. In a split second, profound light surged. That large net was imposing, filled with murderous intent. The dark ones who were the first to rush up. At the moment when that profound chi struck, they were sent flying. This strike gave those students a chance to avoid the danger. The students' figures immediately evaded. As they looked towards the front, they were all astonished. They simply couldn't believe their own eyes. They saw that slender and elegant figure, wielding the glower flame fan, gently sweeping it. That large net which blocked the dark one's attack, at this moment, suddenly dispersed. They transformed into strands of sharp profound energy that directly sealed off the attacks of the dark ones. Just now it was Yi Qingluo who saved them. It was Yi Qingluo's attack which gave them a chance to catch a breather. Then, all the students saw the woman whom they had never been able to truly trust, the woman whom they were unwilling to submit to. He walked among the hundreds of dark ones with extreme ease, the devouring flame fan in her hand. It was like the sharpest blade in the world. Wherever it went, blood spurted out. One by one, the dark ones fell to the ground. Yi Qingluo's actions were still continuing. Her footwork was so strange that the dark ones could not touch her at all. Wherever the glowing flame fan waved, the dark ones could not dodge at all. 10 corpses of the dark ones fell to the ground, 20 dark one corpses fell to the ground, 30 dark one corpses fell to the ground, 40. This was Yi Qingluo's real ability, as expected of the people supported by those perverts. There's no such thing as the most perverted, only more perverted. Those 1,500 over students finally understood why Yi Qingluo only asked them to split into groups to harass the dark forces. Like Yi Qingluo's ability, she alone could take down these hundreds of dark forces people. This Yi Qingluo. Absolutely not just earth profound realm cultivators. Chapter 16:15. That majestic grandeur. That aura which was above the 9 heavens. How could ordinary cultivators possibly possess it? The various academy students were filled with a surge of confidence. At this moment, no one had any complaints as they started to resist against the attacking positions which Yiqing Luo had set. Whereas at this moment, Yiqing Luo, who was wandering among the Dark Ones, saw that everyone had already made their move. His figure flashed and disappeared into the shadows of the students. Ants could swallow an elephant. Although this group of students' abilities were not comparable to the dark forces, but according to her instructions, they suppressed the number of people. This would be able to delay the Dark Ones for some time and ensure that those students would not get hurt. This batch of Dark Ones was as she had expected. As compared to the Dark Ones whom she had met previously, their abilities were much more powerful. This batch should be those who were about to become protectors, but were still 1 or 2 steps away from becoming protectors. She had circled the area just now. It looked so effortless. In actual fact, only she knew how strenuous it was. At this critical juncture, she had to bring out a convincing ability, using her own ability to conquer the various academy students. Otherwise those academies who were unresigned, once they threw a little tantrum, today they would definitely die in the hands of the dark forces. Yiqing Luo was in the middle as she spoke in a low voice. Shadow, immediately search for the position of the array core. I've already arranged for a helper to help you in secret. The other brothers, search for the person who cast the curse. Devil classes students split up. Yiqing Luo's sharp vision focused on the direction of the Dark Ones. There were 300 over people who charged forward to attack. There were still 100 over people standing behind Yiqing Qian, as though they were watching a show. Those 100 over Dark Ones were not standing in an orderly manner. Instead they were scattered here and there. The more it was like this, the more certain Yiqing Luo was. The elder who cast the curse was definitely near those Dark Ones. The moment when Yiqing Luo's figure disappeared, Yiqing Qian acutely sensed it. Her vision had been following Yiqing Luo closely, just in case anything happened. On Yiqing Luo's body, she had already seen too many accidents. Yiqing Luo's luck was simply too heaven-defying. Yiqing Qian no longer dared to bet on this 1 in 10,000 chance of Yiqing Luo turning the tables. Yiqing Qian was on high alert as she suppressed her voice and warned the dark man beside her. Stay alert and sense the surroundings. Hey my big sister, where's your vigilance? Just as Yiqing Qian's words landed, a sweet laughter entered Yiqing Qian's ears. This voice was like a huge bell, falling heavily into Yiqing Qian's ears. Yiqing Qian turned her head around in shock. She saw Yiqing Luo's repulsive face appearing right in front of her eyes. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Qian bellowed in rage as she turned her hand to attack Yiqing Luo's direction. But Yiqing Luo agilely evaded and raised her leg to kick Yiqing Qian. Yiqing Qian's body flew backwards. She followed closely and stepped on Yiqing Qian's chest with 1 foot. You are despicable. Yiqing Qian knew that Yiqing Luo's speed was fast. But they had not expected Yiqing Luo's speed to be so fast that they didn't even have a chance to breathe. Yiqing Qian spat out a mouthful of blood as her face turned pale, and she almost crushed her gums. I'm just catching them off guard. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she increased the strength on her leg. She moved swiftly among the few hundred Dark Ones, and killed close to 50 of them. What she relied on was catching them off guard, and to hit Yiqing Qian. It really couldn't be said to be catching them off guard. It could only be said. Chapter 16:16. She thought that she was well prepared. She thought that no matter how much ability Yiqing Luo had, there was absolutely no way to escape from the array. She thought that she would be able to see with her own eyes those who had mocked and insulted her go to hell. She thought. But all of them thought. But they had neglected Yiqing Luo's current ability. Earth Profound grade and above ability. The difference of a single grade was like the distance between heaven and earth. Not to mention that she had already stepped into the Sky Profound grade, and was known as the Sky Profound Overlord. Dealing with Yiqing Qian was simply too easy. But this indeed couldn't be said that Yiqing Qian had no brains. After all, who would have thought that? Yiqing Luo was merely in the earth profound grade 4th grade before she entered the blazing flame lair. In a short span of 5 days, she became a sky profound overlord. Looking at the entire Nirvana realm, no one has been able to do that. You. Yiqing Qian realized this as her eyes suddenly widened. To be able to move freely among the 300 over dark men. To be able to kill close to 50 of them alone. To be able to silently avoid the remaining 100 over dark men's senses. Get close to her and attack her. Such a powerful force. Such an irresistible force. Yiqing Luo was a sky profound overlord. Other than this reason, Yiqing Qian couldn't think of a second reason. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she smiled sweetly. From the corner of her eyes, she saw those dark men rushing up to save Yiqing Qian. The smile on her lips grew. Her fingertips turned and the glower flame fan was like a dancing flame as it flipped in her palm. Bursts of valiant force could uproot the mountains and rivers. The moment the glower flame fan appeared, it set off layers of waves and everything on the ground had turned into a whirlpool. Those dark men had yet to get close. Under this powerful whirlwind, they were sent flying. Yiqing Qian was the closest. She could clearly feel the terrifying aura surging from Yiqing Luo. That valiant aura seemed to be able to absorb everything in the world. Yiqing Qian's heart suddenly stopped. The profound yin qi which was circulating recklessly in her eyes flowed chaotically. The aura of death. She felt it. The aura which was getting closer and closer to her. Seeing the despair in Yiqing Qian's eyes, a trace of disdain flashed past Yiqing Luo's eyes. He gave up struggling just like that? Her good elder sister was someone who could grab onto life-saving straws time and time again when she was about to be destroyed. Make use of your advantages and live on tenaciously like weeds. How could they give up just like that? How could he be willing to die like this? What was Yiqing Qian trying to do? Yiqing Luo's half-squinted eyes were suffused with a glimmer of rippling luster. Retracting her peripheral vision, she leaned forward slightly. That slender body happened to block Yiqing Qian's line of sight. What are you going to do? Yiqing Qian's face turned pale as she looked at Yiqing Luo who was closing in on her. The courage in her heart turned into fear. Her delicate body was trembling slightly, and her face was pale. No matter how one looked at it, it would make one feel pity for her. Yiqing Luo chuckled softly, as her charming eyes were flowing with luster, becoming increasingly flirtatious. Elder sister, since we are going to die in this place, I naturally have to bring you along to hell. Her voice was a little chilly, but there was also a hint of playfulness in it. When Yiqing Qian heard this, she felt a chill down her spine. Before Yiqing Qian could react, suddenly, she heard a shrill scream coming from not too far away. Following that, numerous black-robed men, like a celestial maiden scattering flowers, flew out in all directions. Chapter 16-17. She suddenly regained her senses. She immediately shouted towards the dark ones who were still entangled with the 1,000 over students. Yiqing Qian knew that Yiqing Luo was sinister and cunning. She also knew that Yiqing Luo was full of tricks. She was on guard. But she had not expected that Yiqing Luo could instigate the students from various academies to listen to her instructions, and even discovered the secret of the array in the shortest time possible. Yiqing Qian's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Yiqing Luo quietly got close to her and attacked her. It was to attract her attention. To attract the attention of those 100 over dark ones who had yet to participate in the battle. Yiqing Luo was pretending to deal with her. It was to create an opportunity for Devil Class's group to find the person who cast the curse. Yiqing Luo successfully created an opportunity for Devil Class, and also allowed Devil Class to successfully find those elders who were hidden behind the crowd and continuously casting the curse. A total of 10 elders. They lined up in a formation, and beside each elder stood 2 black-robed dark ones who were obviously of a higher level. On the black robes there was an eye-catching badge. Devil Class students recognized that it was the symbol of a guardian. The Devil Class students used their fastest speed to kill all the dark ones around them. Following that, they went near the elders. Momentarily, the guardians and devil-class students were entangled in a battle. Yi Qingqian looked at the disrupted formation in front of her. Looking at the numerous devil-class students, fiercely attacking the direction of the elders. Her face turned paler and paler. An indescribable restlessness surged in his chest and spread throughout his body. Yi Qingqian herself didn't notice it. At this moment, circles of black profound qi were constantly surging in her eyes, forming a vortex. This scene, Yi Qingluo saw it clearly. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes, quickly loosened the restraint on Yi Qingqian, and retreated a few steps. Yi Qingluo was very clear. The profound yin qi in Yi Qingqian's body, under her irritable mood, started to stir. Shangguan Liuli had mentioned this before. What the dark forces needed was not only souls and resentment. The same logic could be used. What the dark forces needed was not only resentment and all kinds of negative energy emotions. For example, anger and hatred, as well as jealousy. This kind of emotion was the easiest to cause the corrosion of the profound yin qi. After Yi Qingqian joined the dark forces, she accepted the transformation of the profound yin qi. He was also often intimate with the wolf saint technique, whose body contained countless mysterious yin qi. Naturally, it would also absorb the profound yin qi from the wolf saint dharma. Yi Qingluo was the clearest about the consequences of being corroded by the profound yin qi. Yi Qingluo's vision swept past the students who were battling on both sides. The devil class gradually closed in on the 10 elders. The students of the various academies also used their greatest strength to block the hundreds of dark ones. Everyone was working hard to survive. She absolutely could not let Yi Qingqian spoil her plans. Yi Qingluo's eyes turned slightly cold as her vision returned to Yi Qingqian, who was completely covered by the profound yin qi. She flipped her palm and flicked out a pill. That pill had yet to be flicked into Yi Qingqian's mouth. Yi Qingqian had already reflexively raised her palm, striking that pill to the side. Yi Qingluo, this move of yours can deal with those two trash, but to deal with me, it's not that easy. Yi Qingqian retreated several steps back the moment she was released by Yi Qingluo. Her eyes were filled with viciousness, and her eyes were filled with profound yin qi. Chapter 16-18. Yi Qingluo sighed helplessly as she looked at the woman who had turned sinister and terrifying. I want you to die in a comfortable way, but you have to choose this violent way of dying. She shook her head helplessly. After all, you were once my elder sister. As your sister, I can only try my best to satisfy you. Ha ha ha. Don't just talk big. Yi Qingqian's voice was hoarse as her body gradually floated into the air. The current Yi Qingqian was exceptionally terrifying. That wisp of profound yin qi had already seeped out from Yi Qingqian's eyes. The black qi had encircled Yi Qingqian entirely. She opened her arms. The endless profound yin qi from the surroundings gathered towards her. What is that? Monster. Monster. All the students from the various academies looked at Yi Qingqian, who was floating in the sky in terror. One by one, they cried out in terror. And this moment of panic gave the dark agents a chance to attack. Momentarily, the students from the various academies were tangled in a fight, and the dark agents broke a gap. The students who were charging at the front were immediately sent flying by the dark agents. Ah! Oh no! Oh no! Quickly defend! We can't let them pass! Devil class, be careful, the dark forces are about to pass. The entire scene started to descend into chaos. After the dark agents broke through the students' encirclement, the first thing they did was to rush towards the direction of the devil class. They wanted to prevent the devil class students from getting near the elders. Those elders were the key to completing their mission today. Steady! A loud shout was heard by the students. That voice was sonorous and powerful, firm and full of tension. You only need to take care of the mission that I have given you. Leave the rest to me. That voice had a convincing magical power. It easily soothed the fear and uneasiness in the students' hearts. They saw that young lady dressed in green and white uniform, standing in front of the dark agents in a flash. Facing those dark agents who were swarming over, She didn't show any signs of retreating. Her expression was calm and indifferent. A pair of bewitching eyes flashed with a resolute radiance as she stared ahead. Profound chi surged, intense like fire. The mysterious light that the glowing flame fan shot out was suffused with a devilish red glow. They blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they charged toward the Dark Ones. That Xian Qi was invincible. In everyone's eyes, Yiqing Luo was like a death god who had descended into the world, enough to make everything around her submit to her power. Under that powerful aura, the Dark Ones felt their chests tighten. Some of the weaker Dark Ones even coughed up a mouthful of blood. The Dark Ones in the front row were sent flying. The Dark Ones immediately gave up on the idea of charging forward. Instead, he tried to break Yiqing Luo's imposing manner from the side. However, they did not have the time to move a single step. The mystical qi, which was like the void, had already landed on the bodies of the Dark Ones. The entire fiery lair was in a state of intense turmoil. Sky profound supremacy. The Dark Ones could clearly feel that powerful force. The girl in front of him was only 14 or 15 years old. How could it be a sky profound supreme martial artist? As for those students, after hearing the exclamations of the Dark Ones, they were shocked. His eyes were filled with astonishment as he looked at Yiqing Luo, whose imposing manner had skyrocketed. Sky profound supreme martial artist? Yiqing Luo was actually a strong sky profound supreme martial artist? Just how deep had she hidden herself? Yiqing Luo, your opponent is me. Behind her, a sinister voice was heard. Chapter 16-19. Bam. A loud sound. That palm wind which was filled with profound yin qi was blocked by the glower flame fan. Yiqing Luo flipped over and lifted her leg to kick Yiqing Qian's abdomen. Yiqing Qian's body flew out like a broken kite. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes, her icy cold gaze without any emotion. Opponent, you're not qualified. Every word was like a sharp silver needle, piercing into Yiqing Qian's ears. Anger, at this moment, was like a volcano eruption, exploding in her mind. The black qi in Yiqing Qian's eyes became thicker and thicker. The profound yin qi which was constantly released was like vines closing in on Yiqing Qian's body. Yiqing Qian's arrogance continued to rise. Yiqing Qian let out a roar. Endless profound yin qi exploded from her body. Damn it! Yiqing Qian was completely eroded by the profound yin qi. If it was Yiqing Qian, she had 100% confidence she could torture her. But if it was profound yin qi, and under the condition that the array had not been destroyed, it could continue to absorb the surrounding profound yin qi and keep getting stronger. Perhaps Yiqing Qian was hesitating. Suddenly, a gust of wind attacked from the right. That profound qi carried the momentum of swallowing mountains and rivers, like a raging wave. Who is it? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. The moment that gust of wind attacked, her figure suddenly flashed and disappeared into the air. Immediately, a red feather fan appeared out of thin air, sweeping through the air with a piercing sound. Like a rotating spiral knife, it flew towards the direction of the gust of wind. Ding! The sound of weapons colliding, the glower flame fan's attack was disintegrated. The glower flame fan, which had lost the support of profound qi, instantly fell down from the air. A fair little hand suddenly appeared and caught that feather fan steadily. Yiqing Luo did not know when, but she was only 10 steps away from that person who suddenly appeared. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes, and her gaze fell onto that person. Wolf Saint Law, looks like my elder sister is extremely important to you. The person in front of him wasn't anyone else but Yiqing Qian's female head in the dark forces, Wolf Saint Law. Wolf Saint Technique's malicious eyes stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. His eyes darkened, and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. This Yiqing Luo. It had only been a month since they last met. He had actually stepped into the profound sky realm. This girl's talent was truly too terrifying. If he allowed her to continue to grow, it would definitely be a huge hindrance to the dark forces. Wolf Saint Technique narrowed his sinister eyes as he looked at Yiqing Luo's gaze, which was filled with dense murderous intent. Yi Qingluo naturally sensed that murderous intent. She snorted softly, a hint of mockery appearing in the depths of her eyes. I heard that Wolf Saint Technique's Wolf Saint force has already been completely destroyed, but Wolf Saint Technique still has the heart to come here to save Big Sister. This deep sense of righteousness really moves me. Hearing Yi Qingluo mention about Wolf Saint's forces which had already been annihilated, the killing intent in Wolf Saint Law's eyes intensified. The Wolf Saint force had cost him many years of blood and sweat. However, they were annihilated by that kid from the Imperial Palace. Moreover, they were completely annihilated. There was no room for him to make a comeback at all. If his lord were to awaken at this moment, if his lord knew about this matter, his life would probably be hard to keep. And the reason why the Imperial Palace annihilated Wolf Saint force, everything was because of this young lady in front of him. She still had the cheek to mention Wolf Saint force. Chapter 1620. Yi Qingluo. I want you to die. I want you to die. Just at this moment, Yi Qingqian, who was still absorbing the profound yin qi, suddenly let out a deafening roar. The black qi surrounding her was getting thicker and thicker. Her black hair, which was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, floated behind her in a horrifying manner. Who? Wolf Saint Art, who was in the midst of attacking, heard that voice. He abruptly stopped his attack. He looked towards Yi Qingqian. The moment he sensed Yi Qingqian being engulfed by the profound yin qi, his expression changed. Who? He speedily rushed towards Yi Qingqian's direction, forcefully pulling the raging Yi Qingqian into his arms. That profound yin qi, when it came into contact with Wolf Saint Art, dissipated. Yi Qingqian, who was still struggling, went limp and fainted in Wolf Saint Art's arms. Wolf Saint Art's expression was gloomy, as he looked at Yi Qingluo with a biting cold murderous intent. He opened his mouth and shouted coldly, "Come out!" His voice had just ended when black-robed men appeared one after another. It was the people from the underworld again. Wave after wave, there were at least 130 over of them. The students from various academies, when they saw the medals on those black-robed men, their faces turned pale with fright. These 130 over people from the dark forces. He was not an ordinary dark one, but guardians. 130 over dark guardians, which meant that the battle power of 130 over people, compared to the more than 400 people he saw now, he was much stronger. They were even stronger, and they were not just a little bit stronger. Yi Qingluo's expression turned cold when she saw these 100 over dark guardians. Wolf Saint Art's forces had already been destroyed. Wolf Saint Art could still order his subordinates. These 100 over guardians, could it be? Indeed, Wolf Saint Art ordered coldly, "Protect the 10 elders. You must stop this group of prey from destroying the array." Yi Qingluo's expression changed. These 100 over guardians were indeed not Wolf Saint Art's subordinates, but they were here to stop them from destroying the array. If Wolf Saint Art ordered these 100 over dark guardians to kill her, these dark guardians would definitely not take any action, but to stop them from destroying the array, which was equivalent to fighting against her. This holy wolf technique. Even though he had lost the upper hand, he still wanted to come here and interfere. They wanted to use this opportunity to offer all of their souls to the King of Darkness, to beg for the King of Darkness's forgiveness. Yi Qingluo looked coldly at the Wolf Saint technique, which was holding Yi Qingqian in his arms, looking at her with a sneer. Her charming eyes slightly narrowed. His gaze became increasingly cold. "With me here, let's see how you plan to stop my brother from destroying the formation." Yi Qingluo's figure stretched out. The gourd flame fan in his hand stirred up waves of xian qi. They formed a dense net that sealed off the path of the dark protectors. Immediately following that, Yi Qingluo stood alone in front of those guardians. The profound qi in his body rose sharply, one after another. "Qingluo." Long Yunzhan kicked away the dark person in front of him as the blue sparkling long sword in his hand flew towards Yi Qingluo's direction. Then he flew up and joined the battle against the dark guardian. The strength of the two of them suppressed the Dark Guardian till there was no way for him to advance. On the side of Devil class, they had already settled the Dark Ones and were attacking the Elder who had cast the curse. The Elder immediately threw out a smoke bomb. Following that, they all stood up and tried to escape, but they were stopped by Devil class's students. They rushed up and slit their necks. Those whose necks were directly broken would be directly broken. Chapter 16:21. Overestimating yourself. Wolf Saint Dharma snorted coldly as a chilly glint flashed past his eyes. Following that, he raised his palm and struck out with a palm strike. Devil class students sensed the danger. They could only give up on chasing the remaining 6 elders and evaded. That palm strike seemed to have broken the void, shaking the heaven and earth. After it landed on the ground, it caused the entire flame nest to tremble. The ground, which had already turned into ruins, was like a spider web, with countless cracks densely packed together. A loud boom sound was heard. The ground cracked and gravel flew everywhere. Devil class students evaded in a disheveled manner, and some even fell into the cracks. Luckily, Yiqing Luo had taught them that set of footwork, which allowed Devil class students to avoid the danger. After the surrounding tremors had subsided, Devil class students stabilized themselves. Those 6 elders had long hidden behind Wolf Saint Dharma. Following that, they sat down cross-legged and continued to cast their spells, activating the 2 formations forbidden spells once again. Devil class students, go against the Dark Guardians. Yiqing Luo also noticed the movements over there. With the appearance of Wolf Saint Dharma, Devil class students couldn't even think of getting close to those 6 elders. With the death of 4 elders, the formation's speed had slowed down by half. The person who was guarding the elders was Wolf Saint Dharma. Devil class students' current ability was not enough to go against Wolf Saint Dharma. Why not use these 130 over Dark Guardians for this bunch of youngsters to practice on? Hearing Yiqing Luo's command, those Devil class students who had adjusted their formation and were preparing to attack Wolf Saint Dharma almost reflexively moved towards Yiqing Luo's direction. 50 over people attacked those 130 Dark Guardians in an orderly manner. After Yiqing Luo and Long Yunzhan got away, then they all attacked towards Wolf Saint Dharma's direction. This coordination, simply amazing. All the students from various academies were sighing in their hearts. The performance of Devil class's students had completely refreshed their understanding of Devil class. The heroic spirit in their hearts was ignited at this moment. One by one, they perked up their spirits and became more serious in dealing with this batch of Dark Guardians. Sky Profound First Grade Cultivator, dare to challenge this Saint Dharma? Wolf Saint Dharma sneered as he squinted his malicious eyes. No matter how fast Yiqing Luo's advancement was, even so he was no match for him. The wolf sacred beast tightened its grip around the woman in its arms and leaped into the air. The wind from his palm moved like 10,000 layers of wind and waves, directly attacking. Yiqing Luo's expression was calm as she waved her glower flame fan and opened it abruptly, blocking that palm wind. The powerful profound qi transformed into a bewitching red glow, forming a beautiful cold lake in midair. In that instant, the air was ignited. A sizzling sound could be heard. Boom! The sound of the collision between the qi and the palm wind shook heaven and earth. Soon after, a greenish-white figure broke through the air from the force. Thousands of strands of hair fluttered on her shoulders. It made her extremely beautiful face look even more enchanting and moving. The gourd flame fan in her hand flickered with one complicated profound light after another. Her red lips curled into a smile. At this moment, everything in the world seemed to have lost all its brilliance. There was only one person in the world that could be seen. Wolf Saint technique. If you don't try, how would you know the final result? Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. The moment her words landed, the expression on her face suddenly turned solemn. Her footwork was displayed. She had already overtaken the direction of Wolf Saint technique. Long Yunzhan immediately coordinated with Yiqing Luo's footwork from the other side. Chapter 1622. Wolf Saint Dharma was carrying Yi Qingqian in his arms. Naturally, he was unable to exert his full strength. Facing Yi Qingluo and Long Yunzhan's encirclement, it was somewhat difficult to deal with. Yi Qingluo and Long Yunzhan's coordination was extremely tacit, totally not giving Wolf Saint Dharma any breathing space. The Dark Ones present, whether it was guardians or elders, were not from his Wolf Saint Dharma's forces. Wolf Saint Dharma was unable to hand the unconscious Yi Qingqian over to the other guardians. Moreover, based on Yi Qingluo's cunning character, if Wolf Saint Dharma released Yi Qingqian, in the next moment, Yi Qingqian would probably become Yi Qingluo's bargaining chip to threaten Wolf Saint Dharma. Momentarily, the entire blazing flame lair had sunk into a chaotic battle. The stench of blood filled the skies. In the wooden shed, 4 instructors stood in front of the profound light mirror, staring at the image in the mirror. In the mirror, Ghost Doctor's calm voice was heard. "How is it? Have you found any traces of those students?" No. We've searched the entire blazing flame lair, but not a single student is seen." Instructor Run answered anxiously. "Not only did we use the profound light mirror to search the surroundings of the blazing flame lair, I've also flipped the entire place with those people from the headquarters, but there's no trace of those students." Instructor Lee's face was gloomy. The few instructors were all sweating profusely. All of them had an anxious and uneasy expression. "Continue searching," Ghost Doctor said coldly. "Yes." The 4 instructors responded, and immediately assigned another 2 people to follow those people from the headquarters, to continue searching the blazing flame lair. Near the interior of the blazing flame lair, a black and white silhouette were moving forward swiftly. "Awoo, the students wouldn't disappear for no reason, could it be?" Zhou frowned, recalling the black aura he saw on the profound light mirror earlier. His frown grew even deeper. Ghost Marshal's eyes were filled with a cold glint. "Yes, it's an enchantment. It's indeed an enchantment." Zhou narrowed his long phoenix eyes. "But who can under our eyelids, under the enchantment of those old fellows in the headquarters, can conjure an enchantment that even you can't detect?" This point, no matter how Zhou thought, he couldn't understand. "Dark forces." Gui Wu spat out these 4 words. Zhou's expression congealed slightly. Ever since the news of the dark forces infiltrating into Nirvana realm, because of Yi Qingluo, everyone knew about it. Following that, the Imperial Palace kept on launching attacks against the dark forces, and even destroyed a Saint Technique powerhouse. After a pause, he continued, "I'm afraid the dark forces are desperate. Send the news to the Imperial Palace." Gui Wu pondered for a moment before he suddenly spoke. "Imperial Palace?" Zhou paused. "You mean, as long as that girl is here, Dizun will definitely come," Gui Wu said in a low voice. Zhou pursed his thin lips and nodded. "If Dizun comes, the dark forces can indeed deal with them, but can those students hold on until that girl is there?" Gui Wu lightly said. Zhou frowned as he looked at Gui Wu with a somewhat strange gaze. After a while, Zhou came back to his senses. "She's just a little girl with a little luck. Why do you have so much confidence in her?" In his memories, Gui Wu had never trusted a person's strength so much. Even for himself, he was constantly questioning and doubting his own abilities. Chapter 1623. Inside the barrier. The students of the various academies had already succeeded in killing the Dark Ones. He then pounced forward to help the Devil class and the others to deal with the Dark Protectors. Because of this, Yin Xiaoyi and the others were able to extricate themselves and join Yi Qingluo and the others in the battle, resisting against the Wolf Saint technique together. With a beauty in his arms, the Wolf Saint technique felt strained. In particular, Yi Qingluo was extremely cunning, as she repeatedly attacked Yi Qingqian. Now that Yi Qingqian had fainted, she wouldn't be able to evade by herself. The Wolf Saint Law had to be very, very careful. Furthermore, after Yi Qingluo's attack on Yi Qingqian failed, she didn't stop. She once again passed through Langxing Fa's attack range, and directly released her profound energy in the direction of the 6 elders who were protecting Lang Sheng Fa. The 6 elders dodged in panic. Because of Yi Qing Luo's harassment, he was unable to continue casting the incantation. As a result, Wolf Saint Dharma had to deal with Long Yunjian and the others' attacks, and to protect Yi Qing Qian from being hurt by Yi Qing Luo, and to protect those elders who had no battle ability. After a long time, the Wolf Saint technique was becoming more and more powerless. The situation began to change. The expression on Lang Shengfa's face grew increasingly gloomy. His actions became more and more ruthless. Every time they clashed, they would kill. But the group of students from Devil class were as slippery as loaches. He had no way of hurting them at all. On the contrary, there were several wounds on his body. When had the Wolf Saint technique ever suffered such humiliation? Lang Sheng Fa's expression was extremely gloomy. That vicious gaze seemed to want to tear Yi Qing Luo into pieces. Yi Qing Luo, who saw Wolf Saint technique's expression, curled her lips into a smile. I say, Wolf Saint technique, put down the person in your arms. If you don't save him, you can totally oppress us little cultivators? Wolf Saint magic tightened his arms and pulled Yi Qing Qian into his embrace. She looked as though she was afraid that Yi Qing Luo would suddenly make a move on Yi Qing Jian. Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. Tizke, this eldest sister of mine has racked her brains to get together with 2 generations of crown princes, and ended up in such a miserable state. I didn't expect her to meet a man who treats her sincerely. How lucky she is. Her eyes were fixed on the expression on the Wolf Saint Dharma face. To tell the truth, Yi Qing Luo was unable to understand. How could someone like Lang Shengfa be so infatuated with a woman? From Wolf Saint Dharma's actions of pouncing onto Yi Qing Qian the moment they didn't get along with each other, Yi Qing really couldn't tell what kind of love this was. But, looking at Wolf Saint Dharma's actions of protecting Yi Qing Qian, he would rather get injured than to protect her. Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand. What made Yi Qing Luo even more astonished was, when she mentioned the 2 crown princes, the expression on Lang Shengfa's face did not change in the slightest. Could it be that Yi Qing Qian had already told Wolf Saint technique about her, Lung Fenghua and Lung Fengying's matters? Because of this, when he heard about Yi Qing Qian's old love, the Wolf Saint technique didn't feel anything? No, that was also impossible. If it was Dmo Xian, if she were to be slightly intimate with any man, Dmo Xian's vinegar jar would be overturned. Even though Yi Qing Qian had told Wolf Saint Fa about her past. But when it came to old love, shouldn't a man's true reaction be some disgust or displeasure? Only, Yi Qing Luo didn't have the chance to think deeply. The sole of her feet seemed to be prodded by something. Yi Qing Luo was stunned as she regained her senses and lowered her eyelids. She saw the dust billowing on the ground beneath her feet, slowly protruding out a sharp little corner. That little corner would occasionally lean towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Chapter 1624. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up. She lifted her foot and forcefully stepped on the small corner. Then he raised his eyes and stared at the Wolf Saint technique, who was obviously struggling. Her pink lips curled up slightly, and her figure flashed as she approached Long Yunjian. Already found it. Long Yunjian saw Yi Qing Luo's actions, and immediately understood. Yi Qing Luo nodded, should be. You go, I'll be here. Long Yunjian glanced at her indifferently, gripped the long sword in his hand, and charged at the Wolf Saint technique. Long Yunjian's sudden burst of powerful profound energy immediately attracted the Wolf Sacred Technique's attention. You. When Wolf Saint Technique saw who it was, the expression on his face congealed as his malicious gaze shot towards Yi Qing Luo, who was not too far away. However, Long Yunjian didn't fully understand the meaning behind the Wolf Saint Technique's eyes. He had to attract all the attention of the Sacred Wolf Technique. Immediately, the thick qi surged again. His attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Brat! Wolf Saint Law dodged a few moves, staring at Long Yunjian's cold eyes, his face slightly darkening. This fierce shout did not make Long Yunjian stop his attacks. On the contrary, Long Yunjian's attacks increased. The Wolf Saint Law couldn't take it anymore, and raised his palm to attack Long Yunjian. Long Yunjian was focused on attracting the Wolf Saint technique's attention, so he didn't pay attention to anything else. But Yiqing Luo saw it clearly. Wolf Saint Fa seemed to know Long Yunjian. Furthermore, Wolf Saint Fa had called him brat. Yiqing Luo could tell that the Wolf Saint technique wasn't looking down on Long Yunjian, but it was similar to how a senior addressed a junior. Saint Wolf Art, Long Yunjian? No matter how he looked at it, these two people didn't look like they had any connections. Could it be? Was that just her imagination? That sharp little horn beneath her feet pushed against Yiqing Luo's feet a few more times. Yiqing Luo restrained the wild thoughts in her heart as her footsteps flashed. Her petite figure quietly disappeared into the air. Not a single person noticed it. Just a moment later, Yiqing Luo had already followed that sharp little horn beneath her feet, as she appeared several tens of meters away from the battlefield. The surrounding trees had already fallen to the ground under the attack of the profound qi. It also happened to cover the petite figure of Mo Yuing. Yiqing Luo walked over quickly and immediately bent down, hiding her figure behind the fallen trees. Shadow, have you found the array core? Mo Yuing looked at her expressionlessly. Rely on it. Raising his hand, he pointed to the side of Yiqing Luo, that protruding little horn. The small horn was praised, and it arched its head on the ground. Then an oval-shaped object crawled out from the ground. That little thing was round and bulging. After rolling on the ground, it landed at Mo Yuying's feet. That thing looked like an egg. It was about the size of 2 palms. When the egg reached Mo Yuying's feet, suddenly, a small thing popped out. Before Yiqing Luo could take a closer look, on the other side of the egg, there was another thing. Then another one popped out. After a while, another one came out of the jar. For slender and long things were waving about. Not long after, his form was revealed. That was hands and feet. An egg gave birth to hands and feet. That's right, it's me, the omnipotent strange beast. A devilish voice like a robot was heard from that egg. 2 small hands grabbed Mo Yuying's trousers, extremely proud. Little sister and I have found the array core, it's right here. This was a strange beast? The original body? Yiqing Luo stared at this lump of egg-like creature, recalling that not long ago, deep in the stream, she saw that huge bloody mouth. Chapter 16:25. Destroy the array I. The array is about to merge into one. Mo Yuing stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking as she spoke mechanically. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about the strange beast's body. She immediately looked towards the direction of Mo Yuying's finger. She saw a ball of flickering flame burning in midair, where Mo Yuing was standing. If one didn't look carefully, it was impossible to detect this flame. And after looking at this flame, Yiqing Luo was able to follow the flame and clearly see the array, which was derived from the array I. The range of the array enveloped the entire area of the fire nest. The array was extremely strange and complicated. Yiqing Luo couldn't see through it with her naked eyes. And every single line of this array was filled with dense profound yin qi. Only this profound yin qi didn't overlap the entire area, but it was concentrated to a third of the line. This was the soul assimilation array, an array which absorbed human souls. It was an extremely vicious type of dark incantation. Yiqing Luo finally understood. Why did the dark forces need to take the extra step to set up an array, which provided an endless supply of profound yin qi? This was because the soul assimilation formation required an endless supply of mystical yin qi to form. Yiqing Luo saw it. These lines of the array were burning with a flickering flame at the 4 corners of this area. This flame, it was the array I. As long as the flame wasn't extinguished, the array wouldn't be broken. For array I flames, as long as they got rid of these 4 array I's, this soul assimilation array would be completely destroyed, and they would have enough time to break through the dark force's power and leave this place alive. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. She raised her palm and struck towards the flame. Lass, stop. She suddenly heard Old Man Song's berating voice. Yiqing Luo's hand suddenly stopped in midair. Old man Song, what are you doing? Yi Qing Luo restrained her profound qi. This kind of stopping halfway, it's easy to go into qi deviation. If you hit this palm, then you will really go into qi deviation. Old man Song heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Yi Qing Luo stopping in time. Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed. What do you mean? This is a dark curse. If you use your profound energy to directly destroy it, not only will you not be able to destroy the flames in the eye of the formation, it will also easily cause a backlash from the power of darkness. Old man Song solemnly replied. Yi Qing Luo's hand immediately withdrew. Backlash? This array. There was actually a backlash? Then how should I destroy this array? Yi Qing Luo knitted her brows tightly. The blood of the one who cast the curse. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her expression turned ugly. I'm already here and you're asking me to take the blood of the person who cast the curse. If she were to return to the Wolf Saint technique's side and forcefully attack the elder, she would be able to obtain the elder's blood. The Wolf Saint technique would definitely notice something amiss. By then, she might not have the chance to get close to the eye of the array. Don't you still have the help of that mutant beast? Yes. Let the strange beast pour the Dark Elder's blood onto the formation eye flame. And that will do. Yi Qing Luo snapped her fingers as her brows were filled with a smile. Mutated beasts could transform into anything in the world. They were using the mutated beasts to transport the blood of the Dark Elder. It was foolproof. Qing Luo, what idea have you thought of? A stiff and tense voice rang in her ears. Mo Yuing tilted her head. Her lowly face was in a daze, without any expression. Chapter 1626. Yi Qing Luo speedily retreated from this place. Her footwork was like a phantom as she speedily returned to the battlefield. In just a short period of time, Long Yunjian was still entangled with Wolf Saint technique. Yin Xiaoyi and the rest were still harassing him. But it caused Wolf Saint technique to keep on retreating. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as her footsteps moved. Her figure appeared behind Wolf Saint technique once again. The 6 elders who were continuously casting their spells, on seeing Yi Qing Luo who was silently approaching them, their expressions all changed. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed. Following that, one of the elders stopped casting his spells, stood up and took out a smoke bomb from his bosom. Before he could kick out, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled coldly as she raised her leg and kicked the smoke bomb in the elder's hand out. The smoke grenade drew a perfect arc in the air. Finally, under the rebound of the barrier, it landed on the ground not too far away. Following that, Yi Qing Luo had already stuck close to him. Her fingers moved and the glower flame fan flipped in her palm. A sharp dagger shot out from the fan handle, sticking on that elder's neck. The elder's face turned steely green. Before he could say a word, he stopped breathing. After taking an elder's blood, Wolf Saint technique had already reacted, and a burst of dense profound qi directly shot towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo had already taken the elder's blood, and threw the elder's corpse towards the profound qi. Her figure swiftly retreated, only to see that corpse, under the impact of the profound qi, it suddenly split into pieces. Blood splattered everywhere as the air was filled with a thick stench of blood. Yi Qing Luo quietly placed the blood in her hand by her feet. The strange beast which had transformed into the ground, silently sent that blood to Mo Yuying's side. The elder's blood poured onto the array's flame. That flame was suddenly extinguished. The surrounding array, as well as the lingering profound yin qi, became extremely messy. There were only 3 array core flames left. Yi Qing Luo's gaze looked towards the elders who were fleeing in all directions not too far away. Her eyes turned slightly cold. Qing Luo, be careful. She suddenly heard Long Yunjian scream. Yi Qing Luo's body reflexively dodged to the side. Not knowing when, Wolf Saint technique had broken through Long Yunjian and the others' encirclement, charging right in front of Yi Qing Luo. I've underestimated you. The Wolf Saint Law's expression was extremely gloomy. His sinister eyes were filled with ruthlessness. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she revealed a sweet smile. Aren't you surprised? This was obviously a provocation to the Wolf Saint technique. Wolf Saint Law could never have imagined it. Yi Qingluo was actually able to find the array core under such circumstances. Furthermore, he had destroyed the eye of the formation. It was a way to destroy the dark spell. It was impossible for ordinary people to know about it. It was impossible for anyone in the entire Nirvana realm to know about this. How could Yi Qingluo possibly know? The reason why Yi Qingqian had such great confidence in the success of this array was because of this. The dark forces did not go out of their way to protect the formation core. That was because the formation eye of this darkness formation could not be destroyed at all. Even if Yi Qingluo really found the array core, forcefully destroy it with profound qi, he would be devoured by the dark energy at any moment. But Yi Qingluo had successfully destroyed a formation eye. As a result, the formation of the soul assimilation formation was obstructed once more. Impossible. How could Yi Qingluo possibly know the method to destroy the dark array? Could it be there was someone from the lower realm beside Yi Qingluo? Helping her? Little slut. I'm going to kill you. Wolf Saint Law realized the seriousness of the matter. If he continued to underestimate the enemy, Chapter 1627. Yi Qingluo's lips curled slightly, curving into a sinister arc. Slender jade-like hands, holding the glower flame fan, shot out a bewitching red glow. Profound light surged, encircling the glower flame fan's surroundings. Her footwork continued to change her position. Only an afterimage could be seen with the naked eye. The speed was so fast that it was impossible to capture. The profound qi in her hands was fluctuating, like an excited bewitching flame, sparkling with a dazzling brilliance. Wolf Saint Dharma sensed the power of that burst of energy. The expression on his face suddenly turned black. A ball of profound yin qi was released from his surroundings. Wolf Saint Dharma's figure swiftly retreated several steps. This retreat, Wolf Saint Dharma regretted. The profound qi shot out by Yi Qingluo's glower flame fan was not targeted at him. But at the moment when Wolf Saint Dharma retreated straight to the side, looking for a safe direction, to continue to cast the spell, to maintain the spirit assimilating array, towards the elder, only to see that bewitching red glow, in midair, split open a series of red electric current ripples, as though it was tearing out a crack. Bam! The profound light landed among the elders, directly hitting one of the elders' head. Instantly, that elder did not even have the chance to make a sound, as he fell limply onto the ground. Another boom sound was heard. The residual force of the burst of the mystic light sent a few elders flying away. The elders cried out miserably, Yi Qingluo. Wolf Saint Dharma's expression was gloomy, as he mustered up his energy, compared to the last time when they were besieging each other in the underground room. And now it was not even a month's time. The young lady who was like an ant in his hands then. In such a short period of time, she had already grown to such a stage. Originally he thought, close to these dark people, the dark protectors, would definitely be able to complete today's plan. He had not expected. Yi Qingluo really had the heaven-defying ability. If you don't let go of the person in your arms, these elders. Yi Qingluo's sly brows were peerless. She looked meaningfully at Yi Qingqian, who was in Wolf Saint Dharma's arms. Her curved brows revealed an obvious ridicule. At the same time, the blood of that elder who had his head exploded. Under the silent transportation of the mutant beast, Wang Chong and the others were also silently transported. They arrived at the second fiery array core. Mo Yuing, who had an extremely low sense of existence. On top of that, there was a mutated beast that could transform into anything in the world. Such a combination. It was too easy to do this kind of sneaky thing. When the second flame incantation was extinguished by the elder's blood, the area that was surrounded by the formation suddenly caved in a little. The soul assimilating array that he had painstakingly linked up with the soul assimilating array also broke in an instant. The expressions of the remaining four elders changed drastically. Holy Wolf technique, We can't extinguish the flame formation eye anymore. Otherwise, we won't be able to complete the soul-absorbing array, even if we work until tomorrow. There were still 2 fiery formation cores left. It was the final support of the soul assimilation array. Once another fire formation eye was destroyed, the soul assimilating array would be completely destroyed. Especially since there were only 4 elders left who could cast the curse. This was the first time the Wolf Saint technique had ever felt a sense of predicament. His sinister eyes swept across the dark protectors and dark ones. The ground was littered with corpses, most of which belonged to the dark ones. And the casualties of the students of the various academies were actually less than half of the dark ones. The dark guardians were surrounded by the students. They had no time to rush over to protect those elders. Wolf Saint technique looked at Yi Qingqian, who was in his arms, as the rage in his heart burned. He wanted to let go of Yi Qingqian. Chapter 16:28. The elder's terrified voice rang beside his ears. In front of him was Yi Qingluo's complacent smile. The anger in Wolf Saint Magic's heart burned even more vigorously. However, the current situation had been completely reversed. The various academies had completely gained the upper hand. Obviously. Just a little bit more. They would be able to successfully set up the spirit assimilation array, offering these 1,000 over young clean souls to the Lord. The Lord's seal would then be lifted in advance. But, Wolf Saint Magic's sharp gaze stared coldly at Yi Qingluo's direction. His fingers clenched tightly. The dark forces had already emptied their minds and spent a huge amount of manpower and resources for this plan. The spirit assimilation array must succeed. These students' souls must all become the Lord's food. Looks like they could only use their trump card in advance. Thinking of this, Wolf Saint Magic hugged the lady in his arms tightly as he speedily took a step back. Under the situation where no one could see, his sharp nails scratched his palm. A drop of blood slowly formed. Following that, it dripped onto the ground. Yi Qingluo squinted her eyes as her vision locked onto Wolf Saint Magic's actions. Seeing him retreat from the battlefield, Yi Qingluo's heart trembled slightly as she raised her guard. After waiting for some time, Wolf Saint Magic stood outside the crowd, not knowing what he was waiting for. Yi Qingluo's gaze swept past those elders whose faces were filled with fear as they looked around. Inside the metal, there was a reminder. She slowly walked towards the direction of the elders. Wolf Saint Magic's action was absolutely not because he was out of stamina and wanted to delay time to recuperate. But there was a bigger conspiracy. Rather than waiting on the same spot uneasily, why not take the initiative to attack? Yi Qingluo had never planned to passively accept unknown danger. She liked to be in control and turn passivity into initiative. Silently, Yi Qingluo had already stuck close to an elder's side. That elder raised his finger in terror as he muttered a strange incantation. His footsteps immediately moved towards Wolf Saint Magic's direction to seek protection. But the elder's incantation was not in time. Yi Qingluo's fist had already landed on the elder's face. He had successfully shut up the elder's muttering incantation. Yi Qingluo's peripheral vision had always been paying attention to the direction of the Wolf Saint technique. Seeing that Wolf Saint Dharma was still standing in the same spot, looking down at Yi Qingqian in his arms. But Yi Qingluo could clearly feel the cold intent reflected in Wolf Saint Fei's malicious gaze. She frowned slightly. What the hell was the Wolf Saint technique doing? Could it be that he had really given up on resisting? This was not in line with the Wolf Saint technique's temperament. Thinking back to Yi Qingqian's confident and proud expression earlier, Yi Qingluo's heart suddenly had an uneasy premonition. Why do I feel like she seemed to have missed something crucial? Yi Qingluo hesitated. The Dark Elder took the opportunity to roll on the ground, fleeing to the side of the other 3 elders. Seeing such a situation, the Wolf Saint Law slowly raised his head. The cold, mocking smile in his eyes and the curve of his lips gradually deepened. Yi Qingluo's heart tightened. Something was definitely wrong. She had to speed up and destroy the core of the fire array. The thought flashed past her mind and Yi Qingluo's footsteps didn't hesitate any further as she took quick steps towards the direction of the Dark Elder. The glower flame fan in her hands suddenly shone with a profound light. Wave after wave of mysterious light rippled in the air, gradually lingering in the surroundings and spreading out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Chapter 1629. That elder cried out in shock. His body had already been torn into pieces by the incomparably sharp silver threads. Blood splattered. Flesh and blood splattered. That scene was extremely bloody. Many students present had never experienced a real massacre. The students of the various academies were busy dealing with Elder Hay, but when they saw this scene, their faces all turned pale. Especially when they saw Yi Qingluo brutally killing him. They were expressionless and extremely calm. They suddenly felt that it was the right decision to cooperate with the Heavenly Academy. The sky was filled with blood. Yi Qingluo's eyes were sharp and her glower flame fan swiftly flew towards the sky full of blood. A few drops of blood landed on the glower flame fan. Following that, the glower flame fan landed steadily in Yi Qingluo's hands. What kind of monster is she? She actually, she's not human. She's not human. Wolf Saint technique. How long are you going to hug this woman? If we all die, the spirit assimilation array will not be formed. Wolf Saint technique. This is the top priority of the dark forces. Do you want all of us to die here just for love affairs? The three elders were completely frightened by Yi Qingluo's ferocity and cruelty. Just as Yi Qingluo attacked that elder, Wolf Saint technique was the only one who could protect them. But he was still hugging Yi Qingqian as he watched that elder being torn into pieces under Yi Qingluo's cruel methods. The few elders were terrified of death. Completely infuriated. Facing three pairs of eyes filled with terror and resentment. Wolf Saint technique laughed sinisterly. In my eyes you are not as important as who are you. The three dark elders' faces turned pale as they gritted their teeth and stared at Wolf Saint technique. They were the key tools for the spirit assimilation array to be formed. If not for them, the spirit assimilation array would be on the verge of collapse. Without the restraints of the array, these 1,500 over students would break the array sooner or later and leave the blazing cavern alive. Moreover, even if these students were unable to break the array, even if Gue Wu, who was still in the blazing cavern, based on his ability, he would definitely discover the array and break it. They didn't have as much time as they imagined. But Wolf Saint Law was the key person. However, at the crucial moment, he chose the beauty and gave up on his plan. It doesn't matter whether you guys are here or not, as long as we wait. Wolf Shengfa indifferently looked at the three enraged faces and sneered with extreme disdain. In short, the soul-absorbing array will be formed, and none of these food will be able to escape. Lang Shengfa's unfinished words caused the faces of the three elders to reveal a hint of joy. Holy wolf technique, you mean? The elder's words had yet to leave his mouth. The entire area surrounded by the barrier suddenly trembled, and the mountain swayed. The ground sank deeper and deeper. The cracks also couldn't bear the burden, and large pieces of cracks appeared. Elder Darkness and the Wolf Shengfa immediately looked in the direction of the third flame formation core. Damn it! The third fire formation I was destroyed again. Now there was only one formation I left. Wolf Saint technique. If the last eye of the array is destroyed, the soul-absorbing array will be completely destroyed. The joy on the Dark Elder's face suddenly disappeared, replaced by anxiety and worry. 3 formation cores were destroyed in a row. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.